I love it. Bam.
Can you hear it? I don't have sound to stream.
Good morning and welcome in here on a Monday on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi, Lulla. I've got Mike Sautter here with me. Mike, what's going on, man?
Good morning. Good morning. Cam, what's up, talking? Good morning.
Can we get a little more mic in the headphones?
We get a mic in the bottom.
Yeah, hey, there we go. That's Mike Sautter, the man, the myth, the legend. He was in Kansas City this past week. We are on AM 590 ESPN Omaha. Yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah,
For a minute. Yeah, that's why that wasn't that long.
it's awesome.
Yeah, you've been busy. We'll get to that. We're on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live from Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the H&H Chevrolet stage. And of course, you can find us on Twitter, YouTube. Our guy TK has already checked in, so we know he's alive and well. We appreciate all of our loyal listeners and watchers as it is on YouTube. We will get to your Kansas City trip, but probably, I don't know if I want to talk about how that ended. We have to start though with obviously the end of Nebraska's college football season, which was. Anyway, Shane, are we going out over the thing? What's happening here?
I don't think we are.
Okay, cool. There's something we can do there?
No, I'm working on it.
Okay. Are we going out over the air or just not over YouTube?
Oh, we're going out over the air.
Okay, we'll keep going. Obviously not a ideal way for that season to end. 4-game losing streak. Missing a bowl game again. I guess as you're kind of watching that, going through it, and you were down in Lincoln, right? On game day? No. Okay, I was. I guess which part of that was the most disappointing to you? Friday? Yeah, just I mean, the way the season ended. So if you want to take the 4-game losing streak, if you want to take Friday in particular, if you want to get like real granular about, throwing a pick with 30 seconds left or whatever it was. Like,
Well, it's probably more of the late game situation things that.
in just Iowa or like Wisconsin as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Maryland.
All three very winnable games.
Absolutely. Yeah. In kind of excruciating fashion.
It wasn't good.
Who do you put that on? Because that's always my, I agree, right?
Yeah.
Late game situations were bad.
I guess I put it on Vince.
Okay. On the players?
Yeah, a little.
Because the coaches have been doing this a
Yeah,
while.
so,
And some of the
I
stuff,
think it's just kind of growing.
because some of the stuff is probably on the coaches a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Some of the clock management, especially Wisconsin, was particularly glaring. I guess what portion of responsibility, and this is not a meaning on Coach Rule thing, but I mean, a lot of coaches have clock management issues, even really good coaches, right? I was talking with somebody over the weekend about this. Everybody talked about how bad he is clock management until they got back from home. It's still not any better, but they waited away. That's I feel like there's more coaches that have clock management, timeout issues than you really realize. But because it's happening to your team in the moment, it seems like the end of the world.
Yeah, it's a little.
Yeah. How bad do you think that was, or how much of a factor do you think that was in the stretch that we saw that this season?
I mean, there's something there. Really change it, right? So Wisconsin, you go for the tie.
Yeah.
And Iowa.
Well, and Maryland, so Maryland, you're going to win, or you're going for 6 with 3 get no win, if you're pick. And then you switch where 6 to win, 3 get you tied, you play for the tie, you go for that. And then in Iowa, you're tied, and you're going seemingly for 6 again.
Win again a field goal, although you have Alvano who has missed some.
Yeah, has not great.
Inconsistent,
Right? Yeah,
I think is the
inconsistent.
right word. Like it doesn't really seem like they found a comfort level with what their guys were capable of. Is that a fair way to
That's
put it?
very fair.
And so part of that has to be on the coaching staff, right? You probably
Also look at the personnel offensively, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like you have Alex Bullock out there, who made some good.
He made some plays,
huge
yeah.
Catches.
Jalen Lloyd made some plays.
Malachi Coleman, Jalen Lloyd. What do those 3 guys have in common? Haven't played a lot of college football.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of them are true freshmen. One of them's a walk-on. All 3 of them, you probably did not want to be prominent in your wide receiver plans this year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like, Tyhan makes a catch and he, walk on.
Yes.
Like you just
Probably
you've
not
got-
someone you wanted in the game in that situation.
right. But like if that even if you look at a guy like Thomas Fedoni, this was his first year playing.
Yeah, this is his first experience with college football.
Right. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that's
It
part
matters,
of the
though.
reason.
It matters.
It's part of the reason.
This is Chubba Purdy's most extended time.
Yeah, he played 3 games.
Yeah, as a college football player.
The offensive line is
same with Emmett Johnson. And honestly, the offensive line I thought was pretty good.
They played pretty well.
I mean,
all things considered, right? Like there's some inexperience there.
You're missing
spots
2 starters,
Mhm.
right? Ben Scott's banged up.
Yeah, pretty good. Though. Pretty good.
He is.
It's pretty good.
Him coming, if he decides to come
That's
back,
huge.
that is as big as Ty Robinson coming
That's
back.
a gigantic,
maybe bigger.
thing. Yeah,
Because if you lose Ty, you still have Nash.
yeah,
And I know they really like Justin Evans Jenkins, but if you can keep him at a guard spot
yeah.
and then keep Ben Scott at a center, there's a chance that line could
Ben
actually,
Scott was their best offensive line.
which I think is saying something because I think a few guys played pretty well.
Yeah.
You've got a chance.
Think about it. All the hate that Benart got
last year.
Yeah.
No one said his name once this year, and
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I know. It's what I mean.
Right? Like
Yeah.
I think the offensive. How wild is this? I think the offensive line, and I don't think this is a hot take, was the best unit on offense this year.
Oh, I was gonna say second best on the team. Well, third. Offensively, yeah.
Offensively, it was definitely the best
Yeah,
unit
no
on the team,
question. Yeah, no
which is
question.
crazy.
No question.
They were dead last going into the year, right?
Yeah.
Like our predictions of them
Like,
were dead last.
Offensive line coach that people were like, "Why are you keeping
Yes.
him?" Hey, look, turned out to be pretty.
And not just dead last, but dead last by a mile.
Yeah.
It was everybody else. It's like, oh, we feel okay about the quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we weren't in love with Jeff Sims, and we figured he'd be functional. Missed that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't maybe feel great about the wide receivers. We're like, we got Billy Kemp, we got Marcus Washington, gone. We got Isaiah Garcia Castanedas, gone. We got Xavier Betts, gone.
Yeah.
Billy Kemp hurt most of the last half of the season.
Wasn't really,
and wasn't the guy.
Wasn't the same.
Partially probably because of the quarterback play, right?
Yeah,
like
he
he's
also hurt a little.
He's been
everybody's
banged up.
hurt. Yeah.
But Billy Kemp's a guy that needs like precision quarterback play.
Yeah.
He's
Timing is important.
He is
for
a
him.
like quintessential slot receiver. You want like quick, precise routes. With him.
Third and 6. I'm gonna get you set 6.5.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Third and 10. I'm getting you 6.5.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That's kind of the Billy Kemp.
Right.
But if you don't have a guy that can make those throws, Billy Kemp doesn't look like he has a very good year. Plus, he was banged
I'm
up,
telling
right?
you, they have got to do something at quarterback.
They do have
Oh
to do
my
something, and we'll
gosh.
get to that. But yeah, offensive line was like it was those tight end. We're like, we think Fedoni's going to be good if he can stay healthy. We like Borkature, we like Lindemeyer a little bit, and so it was those groups, and they were like, and then the offensive line is down here, like, please just don't kill us.
Yeah,
and it
the
almost completely inverted.
The at times lack of running game.
Sure.
Not
I forgot the running back.
Not all the time, but at times there was
inconsistency.
Lack of running game. You have receivers that just frankly couldn't create a ton of separation unless it was a YOLO ball.
Yeah, and when they
because Jalen Lloyd can run, Malachi Coleman can run,
but they don't have quite like the route
running
part
there.
down.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
Right, like they'll get.
Yeah, they're true
Jalen
freshmen.
Lloyd he's dynamic.
He's gonna be
an athlete.
Yes, yeah.
He needs more time with reps
with the football
route
part
running.
Of it.
Like
and same thing with Malachi. Malachi came in pretty raw.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The fact that he was able to contribute at all this year, is he had to, right? But it's kind of shocking.
It's a little bit shocking. I don't know if that was the plan.
I'm sure it wasn't, right?
Yeah.
But he is an incredible athlete.
Yeah.
Probably didn't think he was going to play this year, not anything,
right?
Or at least not more than his redshirt.
Both of those
games.
Guys are fantastic.
They're going to be, I think,
well documented that they're great track athletes.
Yes, and I think they have a chance to be really good football players.
Right.
But yeah, we didn't even mention the running back group where you have your first two guys down. The guy that maybe was supposed to be the best guy in that group, Anthony Grant, got like mothballed because he couldn't hold on to the football.
Yeah.
And then you have Emmett Johnson actually played pretty good, but he was definitely fourth on the list.
Yeah. He was not
anyone you talked about at running back.
Yeah, running back was the situation. Too.
So the point of all this is to say
the two positions on offense is that touch the ball primarily weren't great.
Yeah, quarterback and wide receiver and running back. Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
Where you want to lean on, right? Like both obviously the quarterback touches every time. Talking want back, like you those guys get the ball more than a receiver does.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah.
Both those spots were not great.
I thought I thought tight end blocking wise, I thought they did
a good job.
Pretty well.
Yeah.
And Fedoni
he made plays.
It's just
again, if you have a quarterback that can get you that ball,
a little bit,
because I do think guys got open more than we noticed because the quarterbacks couldn't get him the ball.
Correct.
Right. So I don't even want to put too much on the wide receivers, considering what happened, or any of the pass catchers, right? Wide receiver, tight end. Considering what happened in those groups, injury wise, I thought it was like remarkably effective.
Yeah.
But that all goes to your point of when we have these conversations about clock management and end of game management and end of game decision making.
Who's on the field is
your ability to trust who's actually going to execute the calls you're making. Now the clock management thing's a little more tangential to that, but I do think it still ties in.
Tangential, wow.
It's 7:14 a.m. and we're using SAT words here. It's I do think
I've never heard that word before.
I think
not
it's
surprised.
Still related, but not quite as closely related as the like play calls and the what you're trying to do, and whether you're going for the win for 6 or you're going for a tie for 3 or whatever. So all that is to say that it's not like the offense was ever in an ideal spot this year. Basically, from the jump, it was either these guys are totally ineffective, looking at Jeff Sims, turnovers, whatever, or super banged up. We have nobody healthy.
Right.
That was the state of the offense the entire year.
The whole year.
So it's hard to
Not
be
great.
super duper critical, but at the same time, you do have to be like, hey, like there's some things we probably need to do a little better.
Right. Yeah.
one of the things I wanted to get to in the first segment here, because I feel like I have a lot of Nebraska stuff to get off my chest. It feels like they played like 3 weeks ago, but it was only like 2 days ago.
It does. Well,
it feels like a long time ago.
It feels like a very long time
even though it was only a day early, right? It feels like it was.
I knew who that guy was. Keep walking in here. It's a little annoying.
That's all right.
Distract. I don't know if you know this, but I'm like squirrel. Where?
Yeah, you got a little ADHD going on there.
Yeah.
It's all right. That's what the coffee's for. You got to
I
get
don't
the.
even know who that is.
What's that?
I've never seen that guy.
I didn't even see him. I just hear the door.
That's all right.
I wanted to get to. There's 3 things outside of like the super obvious, right?
Okay.
That I would like to see changed for next year. And this is outside.
Are you talking coaches?
There's just general changes within the program. Some of it has to do with coaching. Most of it has to do with coaching, if I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. So I'm not talking about like, they need a transfer quarterback or 2 or 10. Like that's an obvious, like, right. And I'm not talking about like, hey, they need to turn the ball over like half as much. Yes, I know that. That is an obvious. We don't need to spend time on that. If you turn the ball over 2/3 as much as you did, you probably have 7 or 8 wins. Like that's, I think that's a fair assessment. This is more getting into the weeds a little bit more and mostly about coaching. So the first one for me, and I want you to tell me if I'm crazy, off base, or how you think on this one.
I will.
I figured. You generally have no problems being like, Ravi, that doesn't make any sense. I would like there to be a quarterback coach that is independent of the offensive coordinator role.
Fair. Yeah.
Because
is that person going to be more of an analyst?
I would like an on-field quarterback coach.
So what position are you going to change?
So either you
that are able to go out and recruit people.
So either you probably, my guess would be you take Josh Martin, put him back in an analyst role, and give tight ends to Satterfield like you were intended to in the first place. Or and this goes into one of my other points, Foley's also coached tight ends in the past. So either Satterfield or Foley could take your tight ends. Here's why. Yes, you need other guys in that room, but if you're going to be a developmental program, like they've talked about over and over and over again, you need somebody who can develop the most important position on the field.
Correct.
So that to me is like a non-negotiable. I need an independent quarterback coach.
So that's it.
Like that's his job. Like not this guy, but a Mario Vidusco role. That is his job. not him specifically. Not. He can smoke cigars if he wants. That's fine. I don't care. But not like I want a guy who that's his job, because that's a big enough job.
I'm just thinking how you
structure the staff. You have to structure the staff differently, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know, because I think Josh Martin, I think the players really like him. I think he's got some juice as far as recruiting. This is all recruiting based.
Sure.
Right? But
absolutely.
Like I think I don't know. It feels like you keep that guy in that spot,
which is fair. But there's other places you can go.
Foley does a good job, kind of getting out there and recruiting a little bit too.
He's
in charge of the in-state stuff, right? So he's done a really good job.
He's done a good job building the relationships. Is that something he could do from an analyst role if you wanted to?
He can't be out.
He can't be like out, right? But he can still.
And remember, the guy drove around the entire state.
I understand that.
Okay, I'm just saying. Not saying. I mean, yeah, it's more important to probably have someone that can,
especially considering
not Nebraska for a quarterback.
This is my number 2 point. The special teams weren't that good.
They were better than they were previously, though.
I mean, were they better than last year under Bill Bush?
No.
I thought they were pretty good last year.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
They were better than the years before that.
I think think about the fake punt stuff, like some of those things that like worked.
Yes, but you also think about like
a freshman kicker.
I get that. I'm not even talking about making and missing kicks.
Okay.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking more about like the strategy on punt returns,
catching the ball
like
in Michigan State.
How do you even let Billy Kemp make that decision for you? When Ethan Nation seems at least functional catching punts.
Until he wasn't on Friday.
I mean, if he caught it, he just fumbled. He still caught the punt. Like they made it seem like they did not have another single person on the team who could physically.
They also blocked 2 field goals.
Catch a punt. Terrific.
Which is super hard to do.
It is. How much of that's How much of that is Ed Foley? How much of that is just an individual effort from Ty Robinson?
Crazy. No, because if you like watching the game, you saw before the first block kick, you saw Matt Rule say, "Block it, block the kick." So they had a block.
Okay,
they knew what they were doing.
All right.
So that's strategy.
If we're leaving Ed Foley,
that's a little strategy.
If we're leaving Ed Foley, and we want to leave Josh Barton, is there another place you look at as some place you could?
I don't know.
Find another spot.
Because offensive line coach, you have to have out.
Yeah, you're not losing the offensive line coach.
Yeah, I mean
you're not losing wide receivers. You're not losing running backs probably.
No.
That's
so
maybe
about the only
running backs.
No, special teams, tight end stuff is where you could
That's probably the spot where you need to, or where you'd have an opportunity.
Or you just let Satterfield move on.
That would probably be my preference, but it seemed pretty clear that wasn't going to happen.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Unless he gets a better offer somewhere.
Where would that be?
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe he gets encouraged to get a better offer. I don't think that's going to happen.
Doesn't sound like it.
I don't either. But that's the easiest. But I still, in that job, I still have a hard time because I think some of the mistakes in the play calling and stuff like your
again, I'll go back to this. Yeah. With all the injuries, et cetera, and quarterback play, is this the offense that they want to run? I don't think so.
Probably not.
So it's hard. So they had to pivot in the moment, in the middle of the season, or after game 2.
Here's my question though. Okay,
very limited.
I get that Jeff Sims has never really lived up to his physical abilities, whether at Georgia Tech or here. But he was a functional starting quarterback at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
And he became very much not that at Nebraska.
Some of that's with confidence, though, too, but that's coaching.
But isn't that part of the coaching thing? So I guess I get part of it's him, but lots of guys make mistakes and bounce back from it. I'm having a hard time.
Like he didn't have the next play mentality. Like, you could just tell.
He got stuck in it, right? Yeah. Some of that is obviously on him.
Correct.
But does some of that get fixed if you've got a guy that's dedicated to working with quarterbacks to help them work through those things? I don't know.
Probably.
I would think so. I mean, that's kind of the point of that guy's job.
That is the one position that is so interesting going forward.
Because
they've got to find somebody else.
And you have to either,
or at least someone that can hey, if they bring someone in and it's Chuba wins it or Heinrich Harburg wins the job over that guy, great. But they got to
have to bring somebody.
Somebody else has to.
You can't just assume the guys in your room are going to be okay.
You can't just redo it with what you got.
Absolutely
no
not.
Way.
Coming up next, I've got a little bit more of things I might want to see change next year. That's Mike Sautter. I'm Ravi Lulla. You listen to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
He's coming. Yeah, they're all coming through the middle. Now he pulls back. Purdy's looking long. Purdy's got a man. It's caught inside the 30-yard line. Touchdown, Court Huskers. Jalen Lloyd, 66 yards. He was wide open.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. I'm Ravi Lulla. Mike Sautter here with me.
It does seem like it was forever that game was played.
It sure does.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I mean, it's only an extra day, but feels like years ago at this point.
It does feel like a long time ago because there's actually good college football games on Saturday.
Well, you don't have to do that. I mean,
there was.
No, there was. There was really good college football games on Saturday.
That Michigan-Ohio State game was awesome.
Michigan-Ohio State was really good. Alabama-Auburn
ended
well, yeah.
Which that's remarkable.
What is the 4th and 31? The whole thing?
Fourth down. Come on.
Yeah. Stupid. How does that even happen? How does that even happen?
Dude catches in the corner of the end zone.
That's some real Auburn stuff right there.
4th and forever.
Yeah.
The Iowa State game was fun.
The Iowa State
game was fun.
Was
the fact
bonkers.
that they had like half the plays
Not even. It was like a third. It was
I
like
know.
102-35. They, I believe,
crazy.
had like 17 minutes total time. It was like 42 to
Yeah, it was
17 time. It
crazy.
was stupid. The differences in that game. And then obviously Iowa State ends up winning, kind of with the Trey Palmer yellow ball offense.
That was
It
crazy.
was just, hey, we're gonna go 60 yards. We're not interested in drives.
Yeah.
Um,
How good was that guy last year? Wow. Could have had that guy back.
Trey Palmer, that would have been
Awesome.
nice. That would have been cool. I'm not sure we could have gotten him the football, but it would have been nice to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going back to some of the changes I'd like to see. We mentioned quarterback coach. You said yes on quarterback coach, but we're not sure where it fits.
Yeah. I just don't know who you.
In a vacuum, yes, you want an independent quarterback coach.
Yeah.
In the practical sense of who does that mean is
I
off
mean, isn't
the
that just your offensive coordinator basically should be your quarterback coach?
sometimes.
That's how I think it always should be, in my opinion. That should be like your.
I think that's easiest. I don't know if that's what works in this particular situation. Satterfield hasn't always been a quarterback's coach.
No,
He's
I
kind of
know.
gone off and on like he's done tight ends before. Like
Is that a rule thing where he can kind of be more involved?
I don't know.
Because he's more of a CEO type guy.
Rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if you want, I don't know if Rule would do.
I got an OC quarterback coach you can have.
Who's that?
Nathaniel Hackett.
No, I'm good there. That's a hard pass. He can. No, I'm good. I don't want anything to do with that. Just no, thank you. I don't have any. No, I don't even think I want him to be Millard North's
As
next
a
coach.
New York Jets fan, oof,
Just trying to get him out the door.
just get me to next year.
Yeah, if Millard North hired Hackett, I'd be upset.
Just get me next year.
I'd
Just
say-
get me into next year.
Who's going to be your offensive coordinator next year? Who's going to be your
Nathaniel
quarterback?
Hackett. Andrew,
Still
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers
One
and
year.
Hackett, run it back,
Just
maybe.
go all in 1 year, baby. Do the Rams. Just give it to me, all of it.
The last,
Give away every draft pick. Possible.
just give away all the draft picks.
Give
for
me
who?
Devontae.
You want Devontae? I mean, the Raiders aren't using him.
Devontae and Garrett Wilson together.
Yeah, you'd be fine.
Raiders aren't using much of anything.
That's accurate. Yeah, they're not.
They sucked yesterday.
They're the Raiders. That's kind of
No,
what
they got
do.
the same. They've got the same standard operating procedure. They get up by 14 and then they just give their game away. It wasn't a silver and black Sunday yesterday. I can tell you that.
It never
I'm
is.
not
Shane.
sure
It
Antonio
never
Pierce is
ever
getting that job.
is.
Not sure Antonio Pierce is getting that job full time.
I would say probably not.
It's fun.
Although
obviously.
with Mark Davis, you never
Never
know.
know.
Like that dude's a total
Well,
loose
his dad
cannon.
was a loose cannon.
Yeah, they both are.
He's
And
ready.
it seems like,
Bill Belichick's probably going to be available.
yeah, I
Could
think.
you see that in Vegas? That'd be fun.
Ooh. They do have his guy, Jimmy G.
Standard operating
They
procedure.
do have
Let's
his
take-
guy,
let's-
Jimmy G. They love Jimmy G.
Let's take all the old guys. You might as well
No,
go get
decent.
Bill.
The Commanders are going to be looking for a coach too. So
Getting rid of Ron,
yeah,
Riverboat.
have to.
Yeah, I would think so. I'm surprised that he didn't get let go in season or hasn't
Well,
yet.
they just let Del Rio go. We're totally off. of the road.
That's fine. It doesn't matter. There's lots of football that happened. We can all talk about the football. The last thing, and we kind of talked about this, so we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, was that I need improved for next year or change for next year is I need somebody to figure out the clock management issue.
Isn't that an analyst job?
I don't know if there's like an analyst that's in somebody's ear. I don't know because like, especially if you leave QBs with Satterfield, he's doing too much. You can't ask him to also do the clock management.
No, I know, but that's what I mean. Shouldn't there be an analyst, someone, GA, somebody
in the booth that's just like in your
Their
ear.
role is just to
Hey,
have
time out here.
all of the analytical, situational stuff.
Yes, you would think so.
Like, this is what the numbers say you should do.
Yes.
Sometimes you got to punt on that, and go with feel, but
Maybe punt on it a little less than they seem to this year.
right.
Maybe trust the
numbers, yeah.
numbers a little bit more this year. So whoever that is, GA, analyst, whether like Matt Rule just takes that on, is like, hey, I've got this down, whatever. Somebody that needs to be somebody's job, and they got to tighten that up.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it cost them games, but it cost them opportunities for sure.
Yeah.
And this team is not good enough for it to cost you opportunities because you're not getting a lot of those back.
For sure.
So that's, again, not a huge one. We don't have to spend time on it, but that's one that those are the three for me. Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, I think defensive back and all that's pretty good. Like,
yeah, I was pleased with the defensive backs. I mean, defense in general was
fantastic.
Incredible.
No, it's just you're replacing a lot.
Are you though?
Linebacker.
At linebacker, yeah.
Those dudes were studs.
But defensive line, you're in really good shape.
Yeah, but
I actually think in the secondary, you're still in really good shape.
Yeah, you are. Mm-hmm.
The linebackers, you got to fill some guys in.
Yeah, I mean,
you're losing
guys
Reimer.
That started a ton.
You're losing
played a ton.
Yes, you're losing Reimer. You're probably using Henrich.
He's gone.
He is gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that's public or not, but he's definitely played his last game.
Okay, well, it is now.
Like I know,
it is public now.
I know that
Gifford
I know for
has
sure.
another year. Is he coming
walked,
back?
Though I don't know.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, could come back.
Maybe, but I don't know.
Don't know if he will. I mean, what's his NFL? I mean, does I don't know that he has an NFL
special teamy.
Yeah. So maybe he comes back another year. Probably would make more on NIL than he would trying to do something else. Who knows if he wants to play another year or not.
They take him back.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he was good at that spot this year. So linebackers is a place they need some work. Although
you could probably get a little more quick twitchy in that spot though.
I think so, and I think they've got some young guys they like
linebacker,
there.
just overall linebacker,
Yes.
jack, all that.
Yeah.
You could get a little more twitchy.
Yeah, I think there were times, and you saw it a little bit over the course of the year, where if those guys, for whatever reason, were out of position, they had a little bit of hard time recovering.
Right.
And they weren't out of position a ton because they knew what they were doing.
Luke Reimer's gonna. Speaking of a guy with an NFL shot, he'll get a shot.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Just he'll be in a camp, right? Somewhere.
Yeah, undrafted free agent,
Yeah.
but somebody's going to take a look.
Yeah,
Somebody's
for
going to
sure.
take a look at him for sure.
Just runs too well, and that's again a special teamsy guy.
Seemingly has pretty good instincts, and that's a spot where you can get away without being super physically gifted. Obviously, it helps, but if you, the Barrett Ruud's a great example of this. Like, not a great athlete,
right?
But incredible instincts, incredible football IQ.
Yeah,
like made an almost decade-long NFL career out of it, despite not being anything special athletically compared to other football players, right? So yeah, linebacker, they've got some work to do, but outside of that, the defense is going to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, they're going to be good.
And
keep Tony,
keep Tony White. You're in good. Like that's the key to all this.
Feels like San Diego State wants to not go the same route of we're going to run the ball and
defensive minded, and that's what we talked to Adam McClintock a couple weeks ago.
Feels like they want to get a little more.
Yeah, it sounds like they wanted to get a little more offensive minded head coach in. So I'm not too terribly worried about Tony White at SDSU. I'm not terribly worried about him at UCLA.
Going somewhere else,
I don't think he leaves for another DC job.
No,
that doesn't make a ton of sense to me because I think Nebraska will pay him whatever he needs.
And we'll check in with Adam tomorrow.
And we'll talk to Adam McClintock tomorrow.
Shane says.
Coming up next, we're going to check in with Scott Dochterman. He covers Iowa for The Athletic. We will check in on a very different feeling in Iowa City than we're feeling here in Nebraska.
Is it?
I think so. I mean, they're going to go sacrificial lambs for Michigan, but hey, better than having your season over with already.
Good thing they got a defense.
Coming up next, we got Scott Dochterman.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
What does this feel like to get a win in this way?
Just really excited for our guys. They've been really resilient, and to find this way tonight, Hurrdat gets a pick. It's crazy. A defense lineman gets a pick, and then a unsung guy comes out and kicks a field goal. So it's kind of represented this team somehow, some way. We've won 10 games, and it's pretty good.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. I'm Ravi Lulla. Mike Sautter here with me as well. We are joined now on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline by Scott Dochterman. He covers Iowa for The Athletic. Scott, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
Not as chipper as you are, apparently. Scott, obviously, Nebraska lost Iowa on Friday. Iowa gets that 10th win of the season and goes into that matchup with Michigan. I wanted to kind of address we heard a clip coming in here of Kirk Ferentz after the game, and he was pretty emotional. It seems like he's been quite a bit more vulnerable in that sense this year. Have you gotten an indication kind of on why that is? It seems reasonably out of character for him, but maybe I'm not as close to it as you are, and I'm missing the beat there.
He's always emotional this time of year. I think it's probably a combination of not enough sleep after about three months, and he's just very close to his players. I covered Dick Vermeil during his tenure in Kansas City, and they're both real similar in that regard, where they have kind of tough exteriors, if you will, but they melt when it comes to their players' accomplishments, the things that really, draw them close to human beings. And Kirk does this, I remember, just about every year he seems to really well up, and he kind of, we've asked him about it before, and he always kind of says, well, that's my dad's gene, he'd do the same thing. And then you look at his wife and, oldest son, and they're completely different. So it's a phenomenon, but yes, he has definitely been very, very emotional this year.
Scott, do you think that emotion obviously probably has something to do with Brian a little bit?
It adds to the mosaic of this season, no question. I mean, that's an adversity that he didn't plan for sure, and the rest of the team didn't. But I think having Brian removed as offensive coordinator effective at the end of the season added to the stress. But the fact that they've lost so many really good players to injury and they still find ways to win, and it kind of shows the toughness that this team has displayed, I think is something that really endears him. It draws him close to this team, and that's kind of, I think, adds to the whole emotional element of him.
Scott, I know we've talked to you about this earlier in the season, especially when the stuff with Brian kind of came down, but how do you foresee the rest of Kirk Ferentz's career at Iowa playing out now that we're at the end of the season? I know some people speculated that he might call it after this year. I'm curious to how you think that plays out as he kind of gets older. Brian's leaving. Just what are your thoughts on how that's going to look?
No, I would say he's probably got a neighborhood of about 3 more years. And, he's going to hire an offensive coordinator that either he knows really, really well or shares the similar philosophy. And so, who that ends up being, I'm not quite sure yet. I mean, John Budmeyer's their senior offensive analyst, former OC at Colorado State, and he was the quarterbacks coach at Wisconsin. I could see him stepping in that role. And, a lot of the speculation that we've had, there's been really no confirmation of that speculation, as Paul Chryst, the former Wisconsin coach, would come in. And I think that, but as you see, Iowa's going to continue to play the way it desires. It's not going to change a whole lot. And I think, with the new teams coming in the Big Ten, it's going to stress that a little bit, but also line of scrimmage football still works, as Michigan proves.
Scott, as we kind of look towards that Michigan game, I know everybody looks at Iowa as kind of the sacrificial lamb for Michigan there, as Michigan was able to knock off Ohio State for a 3rd straight year, and they're trying to punch their ticket to the college football playoff with a win against Iowa. what path forward do you see for Iowa to possibly pull an upset in that game?
Very little. I mean, but it does remind me a little bit of what happened. And this is 7 years ago now, but in 2016, Michigan was 9-0, ranked second in the polls. Was number one in so many different categories, and Iowa had just gotten beat 41-14 at Penn State, and looked like, okay. I even predicted like 42-0 that they'd lose because their offense was just as inept as this version, and yet what they did was they kind of dragged them into a street fight and played, punt ball, played very physical. Iowa was very physical that game, and Michigan made some uncharacteristic mistakes, and Iowa pulled out a 14-13 win on the last play of the game. Now, the difference is that was at night at Kinnick, where it's very difficult to play at night at Kinnick. And this one is at a neutral site, and a little bit closer to, not much closer, but so and it's a fast surface. So, this is going to be an awfully difficult situation for Iowa. They're going to have to move the ball offensively. They're going to have to run the ball effectively. I think that's number one. And if they don't do that, then they have no prayer at all. If they can move the ball to the point where they get into scoring position, they got to score. They can't just get past the 40 and then piddle around and end up punting. They have to take advantage of every single situation. And finally, they're going to have to play great red zone defense, which they're capable of doing. But it's going to be as big of an uphill climb as they've ever had, because this is this championship. Michigan may be as good as any team we've seen in the championship era of the Big Ten. So I think this is going to be an incredible uphill climb for Iowa.
21.5, though, does that seem to? I don't know why I feel like that's too much in this game. Is that? I know you just said it's an incredible uphill climb, but 21.5 is like a ton.
Yeah, I know. And I think, what we tend to do is we seem to reset every single week and change our outlook. And, just barely over a week ago, Michigan won 31-24 against Maryland.
Right.
And so every game is different. Who knows what their mindset is? They've had a lot of adversity, all of it self-inflicted, of course, but they've had a lot of adversity this year too. Jim Harbaugh's back. They're looking at this game going, they already got it won, and it's only Monday. So, their mindset's going to determine a lot about how this game gets played out. And it's kind of funny that the point spread is equal to, or close to equal to, what the over-under has been for Iowa most
right
this year. But I think Iowa can keep it within shouting distance. I just don't think they have the offense to execute and make this an upset to remember.
Scott, looking back at the Nebraska game, obviously Deacon Hill did not have a stellar performance. What's a realistic version for him of a game he could have against Michigan that would keep Iowa in it?
I'd like to give you a great answer, but I don't know. He's had a really odd year because the 3 weeks preceding the Nebraska game, he actually had a decent completion percentage, over 60% in those 3 games. The 3 before that and the Nebraska game, it's hovered around 35%. So, he's going to have to, to boil it down, make the makeables. Meaning, if something's there, he's got to make it. He's got to throw that pass. And I don't know, he's got a really strong arm. So maybe an indoor environment allows him to take a chance or two that normally he wouldn't. But, he's got to make sure that, that if there's an open receiver, you've got to hit it every single time. And they're not going to be open all the time. They're not going to be open a lot. So he's just going to have to not make any major mistakes, which he tends to do about at least once every game and makes something just inexplicable. So I would love to say if he does this could happen, but I just don't see it. I can't see it because I've watched it all year, and this is by far the best team that they've played.
Scott, real quick, can I shift gears to basketball because, well, that's what I like to do. Iowa men's basketball, they're only the 2 losses. They get North Florida, and then a week from today is a pretty a week from today is a pretty huge game. They open Big Ten play with Purdue. What have you seen so far from Iowa? I saw them play Creighton in Omaha here. And, obviously, they're going to score a ton of points. And I don't know about that much defense, but what are your thoughts on them so far this season?
Well, I think first of all, Fran should be the offensive coordinator. And
there you
Phil
go.
Parker should
Yeah.
But that's probably the best outlet here. But no, I mean, this is a young team that's in kind of transition mode. So I think that they're going to have, they're going to be up and down. But overall, they've got some issues they got to work through.
Yeah. Scott Dochterman from The Athletic. We appreciate your time as always, Scott. And I don't know if I want to say good luck against Michigan, but I hope you enjoy your time watching Iowa against Michigan.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Coming up next, we've got Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
All right, so this will be a 30-yard field goal attempt from Stevens. Good snap, good hole. Kick is on its way. It's blocked, and it's spinning around near the 5-yard line. What a big-time stand by Nebraska.
Unbelievable. This game is pretty much exactly what we thought it would be. Nebraska comes up big.
As we kick off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, and ESPN Tri-Cities, make sure you get your morning kicked off right with the Beanery. They've got 4 great Omaha area locations: Gretna, Papillion, Ashland, and 168th and Giles. They're locally owned and operated. They roast their own coffee. And whether you're into coffee, hot, iced, you want something else, they've got frozen specialty drinks. And they've got some food for you as well: muffins, breakfast sandwiches, also gluten-free and vegan options as well. The Beanery, serving people coffee. We are efforting Sam McKewon, but as we wait for...
It's probably trying to get warm or something.
Yeah, or, maybe he's going to the Beanery, getting a little coffee to get his day started off.
Could
Right?
be.
We don't know. But what we do know is that...
Can I mention something real quick?
Sure.
Just from what Scott said in the last segment about the Iowa having that street fight game.
What's that?
Didn't it seem like the Iowa-Nebraska game was a bit of a street fight?
Yeah, that's how Iowa has to win.
Is that their MO? Is it so? That's what it is. That
their offense is horrible.
Yeah, they just want to make the game as ugly as possible.
Yeah,
because it was pretty ugly.
They don't have any other way to win except for that way.
Yeah, that's basically. I mean, that's Kirk Ferentz basically since Brad Banks left Iowa City. That's kind of what Iowa is. Unless you're a big Ricky Stanzi guy. No,
Ricky Stanzi. I remember
Drew
that
Tate,
big
Drew Tate guy.
Drew Tate was all right.
CJ Beathard.
CJ Beathard's still in the league.
He is. He's kicking around. I know. He started a couple games for my 49ers.
So he's not terrible.
I wasn't making fun of CJ Beathard.
Okay,
I was a little making fun of CJ Beathard, but in jest, tongue in cheek. No, I mean, let's be honest. If Nebraska had CJ Beathard at quarterback this year, they probably won 8 games. So not gonna hate on CJ Beathard too hard. It sounds like we are getting Sam here. I would think so. I don't know. Shane's on the phone with somebody. I have no idea. I'm
working on it.
He's efforting.
I do, as we wait for Sam, I do want to get into some of the...
I made a decision on tires, I think.
Did you? You're going to buy some tires?
I need new tires in my car.
So
I drive far too much.
I'll say Mike Sautter, the genius that he is.
Yeah, that was not...
It was pretty dumb.
I don't know.
You drive a lot.
Maybe it was like 40,000-mile tires. I feel like it was 25. And I'm like, what? Why would
I didn't even know they made 25,000
There's no
tires.
way. I think I just drive too much.
That's probably true because you do drive a ton.
Yeah.
and you're telling me that you bought 25,000
There's no
mile
way.
tires.
I don't even think that's possible.
I mean, I think those are just like rubber bands. If
Yeah.
you buy 25,000
not-
mile tires.
That's not possible.
So you're gonna buy like 80,000 mile tires
I
this time.
think so. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good call because
Yeah.
you drive too much.
All weather, whatever.
Unless you're gonna get rid of your car soon.
I would love to.
So if you're gonna get rid of your car soon, get like 40,000 mile tires.
I want to pick up so bad.
Because why do you want a pickup?
I just do.
You drive too much for a pickup. Come on, man.
No, not a big truck, like a pickup, the middle, like the baby ones.
Like a Ranger.
Yeah. Chevy Colorado, black.
Colorado.
Oof. Got a friend. Shout out to Eric. He has a blacked out one.
Yeah.
Blacked out
Pretty cool looking.
Colorado. Black on black on black. Wheels black. Wheels are grayish black.
Like a slate.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. Pretty good looking.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
What kind of see
that truck? I saw him like about a couple months ago.
Yeah.
His truck. And I was
feeling the Colorado?
Yeah. Or a Ranger, something like one of those,
like one of the mid-size pickups.
Tacomas are nice.
Tacomas are nice. Although Tacomas are getting kind of big now.
I don't know if I could ever do it though.
Like why?
I don't know.
They keep like getting.
Yeah.
I feel like the Tacomas keep getting.
Yeah.
I remember the Ford Rangers back when I was like in high school were tiny. They were like
here you go. What
itty bitty trucks.
YouTube comments. Help me find tires and or a new car.
Yeah, if anybody knows a
Let's
lot
do
about
it like if anybody next month
knows a lot about tires,
hit
Mike
me
up because he's asking me, and I haven't bought tires.
I don't know anything.
In I don't know how long because I just leased my cars.
I just trust the person where I go, the place I go,
which is dangerous.
Very.
I lease my cars, so I never have to replace the tires because by the time I turn them in, I don't need new tires yet. So I don't know the last time I bought.
Also,
tires,
should you just go to the big box place or whatever, like the place everyone goes to buy tires? You know, like your
is there like a secret special place?
Yeah,
to
is
go
there
buy
like
tires?
I'm not even asking for a hookup, just like a place they
don't try and like hose you.
Yeah,
basically.
trust and all that stuff. Yeah,
fair. Yeah, so hit Mike
Sell
up.
you all the extras.
Hit Mike up if you know anything about tires because I do not. I'm not
that's all right.
I'm not an auto.
Well, you want a nice place to where you can go and get it where they do a nice job, where they're not going to scratch the rims up. They're not going to.
My rims are scratched.
I think we're mostly concerned about
we're
him
just worried
not
about
getting overcharged for tires
whatever.
he doesn't need.
Yeah.
Because like you could buy like $500 pop tires.
Yeah.
I don't think you need that.
No, definitely not.
That's probably a little excessive for what you've got going on.
I'm not doing that.
So that's if anybody has a little advice for Mike, hit him up.
Okay. Yeah.
Let him know.
Google it. Thanks, Thomas. I've been Googling.
Yeah, you have to know what to Google, Thomas. If you don't know what you're looking at,
I've been Googling.
Yeah, we've been sitting here looking at his computer.
Yeah,
if you don't know what you're Googling,
I think I'm in a nice little. I think I got it.
You've got a list. I think you've got.
We're in. I think I've decided. I'm narrowing.
I've got a little like issue. Like, and Thomas, we appreciate your support, and you're always in the stream, and we love it. But I hate the Google it answer.
Just Google it.
Because that's not always the answer. Like, yes.
It also isn't. Is it Googling anymore? Is that the word?
I don't know. But like,
depends
yes,
on what
there's a
web
lot
browser
of
you're on,
there's
I
a lot of things that you can do. And
what
just
web
Google
browser are you using? Because it could be technically it could be Google or it could be Safari.
Well, a lot of times when they give that answer, when somebody says just Google it, you that person already knew what the answer was, so they could have just told you.
No, and here's the thing.
It's always
I think
that
we're
gap.
overreacting.
No, I'm not overreacting. This is a different thing. And maybe Thomas wasn't doing this, but here's the problem: is a lot of times when I'm asking a question,
and most people have Chrome as their browser because that would be Googling it.
No, it's all you can still go to the Google search engine.
Here.
You can still go to a Google search engine.
Do people
on any
actually
browser.
go to the bar and type in google.com?
I do.
And then are you serious?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you what?
Yeah.
Are you 82?
Maybe it's hard
you
to tell.
must. Wow.
Listen,
people do that?
I do.
Huh.
I almost always have a Google tab like open. I have it on my phone. I have it on my computer. That's what I do. You don't have to be in Chrome. I do usually use Chrome, but sometimes I'll like have Safari popped up or something on google.com. Because if you're on a
you can just type it in.
Yeah, I don't like doing
in
that.
the search bar.
I feel like it comes up different. I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm not a fan.
Welcome to the internet.
Well, so
What?
I'm still on TK's thing over here because if
You go. I
Here-
could call Darcy at Dingman's.
well,
I don't know if
tires?
they do tires, but that would probably.
I don't know if they do tires. They do everything else.
Right.
I don't know if they do tires. We'd have to check with them. But
Darcy, if you're listening, let me know.
give us a call. 888-638-4876 on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline. Darcy, let us know if you guys do tires.
Travis doesn't want us to talk about this anymore.
Travis,
That's okay.
We'll get to other stuff. I have a little soapbox moment here. I need it. Just chill.
This is Sautter soapbox, but
Ravi's rantings.
Yeah, there you go.
If I ask someone a question, there is a pretty good chance I have already Googled it and I need further advice.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely
Like
have looked at
we
it.
have been on
Yeah.
the internet
Spent
on the
20
breaks
minutes doing
looking at tires.
Yeah.
It doesn't help to Google it if you don't know what the tire things mean.
Yeah, there's like a
what's the
V and a-
difference between the whatever? What are we looking at here?
the
The
speed
Taranza
rating,
quiet track.
speed rating and load index. I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah, like none of that means anything.
Run flat.
It's like when that means it'll run for a while after you get a hole in it.
Oh, okay.
I know what that
I
one
have
means.
No idea.
But it's like when
Most of them are a no.
I'll ask my brother if I need like a new piece of technology, like a computer or a phone or whatever. I ask him because like, yeah, I can Google and see what all the things mean. I still don't know what it means. So so enough with the Google it answer. All right. If somebody's asking you a question, it's for a reason for the most part, unless they're 800 years old and they don't know how to Google, in which case just give them the answer. They're too old for this. All right. That's all. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Let's talk about coaches.
What about
The coaching carousel? It's starting to spin.
Yeah.
It's starting
Mike
to spin a little
Stoops. That was
Mark.
wild. Mark Stoops. That was wild.
bit. That was it was almost Greg Schiano-esque.
Oh, very.
It didn't quite get as far in the process as Schiano did, but it looked like it was like that was their guy, right? Like that's
Totally was there.
yeah, like they had picked Stoops.
Which is wild.
Yeah, first of all, I was shocked that Texas A&M didn't take a bigger swing, and maybe they did, and everybody said no.
How? I was like, that's the guy.
Yeah, I thought they would try and go big again, and maybe it's smart that they didn't.
Unless they just have unlimited
They
amounts of money.
basically do.
That's clearly.
But
because you would have gone, yeah.
Like
I
who
mean,
else would you have gone to? Like what's the big name?
Justin Fuentes is who I would have gone to. Your
Okay.
guy.
Fuentes?
Yeah. I would've
My
gone.
guy. Why is he my guy?
I don't know.
I'm like,
Missouri.
I'm surprised they didn't make a run at like Dabo.
Ryan Day might be available.
That's what I mean. Like, why didn't I don't understand.
I don't understand that at all. I get
the
it.
Ryan Day
I
thing?
get it. They've lost 3 straight to Michigan, but
But you're 11-1 every year. Like maybe chill.
yeah,
Like maybe chill the F out real quick.
you could go. You can do much worse than right. I get it. You're
yeah.
Ohio State, but wow.
Yeah, you're
Lost
Ohio.
7 games or whatever in like 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah, no,
You know,
he's
it's
pretty good.
crazy.
He's pretty good. And listen, I still think he's a guy that was born on third base,
Oh yeah, for sure.
but he's still
Yeah, he was just like gifted.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
handed over a very successful
Yeah.
program. But guess what? A lot of guys get picked off in that situation.
Yeah,
They screw it up or they like try and steal home and get thrown out.
yeah.
A lot of guys mess up in that situation. He has kept it on the tracks. He has kept them moving forward. And he's kept them going 11-1 every freaking year.
If Ryan Day is available, like who fires their coach to go get Ryan Day?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Somebody would.
Absolutely. The better question might be who doesn't fire their coach.
yeah,
Because I think the list is like Saban.
yeah. It's not.
It's not a long
Harbaugh's not.
No, because But so Saban, Harbaugh, you probably don't fire Dabo although I don't know, they might.
for Ryan Day, maybe.
At this point, they're not like super happy
Yeah.
in Clemson, which is kind of why I thought,
Lincoln Riley.
do you fire Lincoln Riley for Ryan
No.
Day? I don't think so.
No, not right now.
That's why I kind of thought that Texas A&M might take a swing.
Basically, every Sarkisian in Texas you keep
Probably, yeah.
just because he's done
He's
such
having a good
job.
year.
Basically, everyone else.
What about Brian Kelly at LSU?
Nah, they probably stick with him. I don't know.
They
the
lost
one
like 4
three-
games,
yeah,
3-4 games this year.
Yeah, he's gonna win Heisman, which is weird.
Yeah, he
Because
should.
he's not. He's gonna just by default.
He's fine, but like he's not.
Like by default, he's gonna win.
I mean, it should be Penix. Penix deserves it.
Penix does, but
Penix deserves it, but it's probably going to be
which
Jalen
is
Daniels. 'cause
crazy because again
two-thirds
they've
of the-
lost like
3 or 4 games? Yeah, well, it's because half the voters don't stay up to watch Pac-12 football, so that's fun for everyone. What is LSU's record this year? Is it 3 or 4 losses?
3.
I believe it's
They're
three.
9
I
and
think
3.
it's 3.
They're 9 and 3.
Yeah.
because they beat A&M.
Yeah, you keep him. So
But it's a pretty short list.
It's under 10.
Oh, without a doubt, it's under 10.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that they didn't swing for a Ryan Day because, like, if you're A&M, you can pay him more than he's making at Ohio State because you apparently don't care about money at all. You're just paying.
Yeah.
You're paying Jimbo $80 million just to.
Also look at like if you're Ohio State. Right? I hate doing this, but you also got to think like if we do this, who we getting? A lot. Everybody.
Yeah.
Would want outside of Nick Saban and Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, the Ohio State job is
Everyone-
you can get anybody you want.
And Steve Sarkisian. And literally
Anybody
anybody.
you
You would call Lincoln Riley, and I bet he would do it.
Probably. Like you can get, you could call Kalen DeBoer at
Anybody.
Washington.
Anybody.
Done. Like you
Anybody.
can get just about anybody you want, right?
NFL guy, I mean, they would take a major swing. You would have to have Mike Vrabel lined up.
Oh, interesting.
You would have to have that lined up.
Interesting.
It would have to be done.
But like, I feel like
Which would be like,
if you're
That would
Clemson,
be
if
pretty
you're A&M, like Dabo's kind of just out there right now.
you could have probably gotten that.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like you didn't want to take a swing at Dabo?
I would've
Like,
taken
I
a
have
swing
my
at a lot of
issues.
people.
I have my issues with Dabo. Don't get me wrong. I think he's kind of a pretentious, like D-bag. Like I'm not a huge Dabo fan. Really good at coaching football though.
I think they probably could have. Yeah.
And I feel like this is why I feel like they didn't take swings, is because we almost always hear about it,
Yeah.
especially on the swings that they miss on.
Especially A&M. Like it's so loose.
Yeah, it's not like they're running a real
Yeah.
tight ship over
Yeah.
there. Like the Jimbo thing to A&M was known like a month before it happened.
Right.
I can't believe that their options were Stoops and then Elko. Now listen, Elko might be the best hire for the job. Like that's the
he was the better option of the two.
sure, but he genuinely might
Just
be.
not sure I'd ever want to be like, oh yeah, hey, guess what?
This guy's been
You're
at
gonna
Duke
be
for
the-
2
You're
years.
gonna be the second. You're our second option. Do you want the job? I guess you take it because
Sure.
money.
Well, the
It's-
money,
It's once in a lifetime money.
and he's got Texas roots.
Right.
Like he was the DC there, but this is a guy that's been at Duke for, I believe, head coach for 2 years. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And Texas A&M's like, yeah, we're cool. We're doing this for a guy that's only been a head coach for 2 years.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Like this is and listen, I laid out the case that A&M is a little too big for their britches in
They
sense
are.
of who they think they are.
They definitely.
But
do.
from a money, resources,
not care.
location, conference, they have everything that you would want. The
Yeah.
one thing they don't want is what Coach Rule talked about when he was talking about Tony White. Does their commitment to football match their expectations? They have the commitment to football, but their expectations are wild compared to what they've been.
Yeah.
They don't even have a pretend national title since 1939.
Yeah. It's that pretend one.
Well, because let's be
Okay.
honest, like anything before the AP
Penn
era,
State,
anything before the AP era is like a pretend national
like an
title.
Iowa national title.
Yeah,
They have
it's
that
like-
one. They
yeah.
have that one.
Yes,
They think
that they claim.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
I mean, there's some of these teams that claim ones from where they had like 3 losses and they were ranked like 20th in the AP poll, but they're like, no, but this other poll said that we were the best team. It's like, no, okay, unless you were ranked in one of the 2 major polls, that is not a real national title. A&M has 0 real national titles.
Yeah.
This is goose egg. And even if you want to count their pretend national titles, it's been 90 years.
I just think you're throwing bags of money. That kind of money would be really hard to say no to, no matter your situation.
Absolutely. Because you're talking probably, I bet Elko won't make this, but if you were talking about like a Dabo or if they'd gone after a
You would
Ryan
probably
Day,
go like 10, 12 million.
I was going to say at least 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I think
Like the highest paid coach. For
absolutely.
sure.
I think if they had gotten like one of those guys,
To even
they
be
probably
like,
would have
hey,
gone like 15 if they had to.
Yeah.
Which is a stupid number.
Yeah.
Because like
It's
10
more
years
than-
ago, the highest paid coach in the country was like making like $5 million.
That's the highest paid coach.
Yeah, just period.
In
Full
any
stop.
sport, any league, doesn't matter.
Yes.
NFL coach, everything.
Whatever.
It's the highest paid coach.
I can't
In
say for sure
America.
about like European soccer.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
But
those people look like they don't
you're
even
the highest paid coach that there is.
in United States major sports.
Yes,
And they could have done that. I'm guessing Elko won't get that.
I'm guessing it'll probably be about 6 to 8.
I was gonna guess like 7.5, 8.
Yeah,
Like he'll get
still
a
pretty big payday.
he'll get a nice raise.
Yeah, nice. I bet it's significant compared
Well,
to
what's
what
he
he's getting paid
making?
to do.
Let's see what
Well,
it's
it's
a
private
private
school.
school, but usually they can give you a guess number.
I'm guessing it was like
My-
2.5.
Ooh, I was gonna guess like 4.
Yeah, see, no.
You think that's
I don't
high?
I think it was probably more like a 2.5 million.
He signed an extension 3.5.
Yeah. Okay.
So in between what we said.
Yeah. So it's
So
he's doubling
at
his
least
salary,
doubling his
probably.
salary,
Yeah.
right? You would guess.
You always take that job,
yeah, for sure.
no matter. Even though it's probably only going to be about a 4-year gig.
Although I think you know what's ironic is even I think that's a
two
job.
to 2 to 4 years is probably the lifespan of that job.
Yeah,
Unless he wins.
well, unless he wins a lot,
Because
because
still the
if he
buyout. Look
wins-
at the buyout.
8-9 games, he's gonna get fired.
Right. Okay. So
Like that's the problem.
even if it's 1 year, you take it because the buyout is
Yes.
significant.
Yeah, because there's guaranteed money on the
Yeah.
back end. So I'm not even talking about that. But I mean, he could be reasonably successful, and they're still gonna fire him.
Yeah.
Like he could win 8 or 9
He's
wins a
not
year.
gonna be there forever.
If he's there in 5 years, I'll be shocked,
Unless they win an SEC title, which
which is not happening.
feels like really far
They
away.
are not winning an SEC title. You know why? Because there's other teams in the SEC still. This
Yeah.
isn't like the Big 12 where it's like, yeah, you can just pop up 1 year and be good.
Yeah.
Like not because you got Texas, who's better than they are
There
right
was that
now
Matt Rule like conversation. Remember that like
with
fake-
A&M
fake report
for like
thing?
half a minute.
I initially I did think about that. I'm like, I could see them calling.
Why
There's
wouldn't they
no
call
way
him?
that dude takes that job.
I don't think he would, but why wouldn't they call him?
There's no way.
But they should definitely have called him.
Yeah, for sure. But
Like
or
with
just
his
kick the tires.
reputation in Texas.
Yeah, just you kick the tires. But there's
There's no
no
way.
way that guy takes that job.
No,
Not good enough.
that job is super toxic.
Yeah, and he's not.
Perhaps the most toxic job in college
He's
football.
not that person. So
Is that an exaggeration? That might be the most
No.
toxic job in
No,
college football.
Alabama's pretty.
Yeah, but Alabama has the winning to back up what they
I think
expect.
before Saban got there, it was really toxic.
It was super toxic and they had a rough stretch,
yeah.
but at least they had the history of expectations.
LSU,
Is LSU a super toxic job?
I don't know.
Maybe it is. I never looked at it that way.
Feels like USC is right now.
USC could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want people. They want Lincoln Riley fired. Like what? People that are.
They chilled with like Clay Helton for like 7 years, right?
Yeah.
And you're over Lincoln Riley already?
Oh yeah.
Like, listen, I understand he needs to figure out the defensive side of the ball.
Plaschke, LA Times. I read the story. Like he's the,
Well,
the columnist.
Plaschke's a moron.
But like,
I get that he has a voice out there and people care what he says, but like Plaschke's
come on,
a
man.
moron.
Like he was like when they lost to UCLA, it was like you saved Kelly's job and now you should be fired. Or something. I'm like, what?
My only experience with Plaschke is on like the talking head shows on ESPN,
Yeah.
and I'm always like, I don't think this guy's very
Kalen
smart.
DeBoer, it would be.
If I
good.
had an open job and I was like I could pay whatever I wanted, Kalen DeBoer would be my first call.
Like an A&M.
Yeah, at an A&M, at a
Oh,
Michigan.
yeah, Auburn's really toxic. Thanks, Travis.
Auburn is super
Auburn's
toxic.
At the
But similar situation with Texas A&M, right? Little brother in their own state.
yeah,
Not-
Auburn is for sure toxic.
not
And
near-
so LSU. That's a good point. Scary Gary said LSU has fired the last 2 coaches to win a natty.
Fair. But like one of those was Les Miles, and the other one, like Ed Orgeron, was off the rails by the time they fired him.
Yeah, well,
Like he had some stuff going on.
fun.
I'm just
Fun
saying.
guy though.
Yeah, no, I want to hang out with him for sure. I don't know that I want him to continue to run a football program.
Yeah.
Also-
Remember when people thought that Nebraska should hire him?
I would love him as like a defensive line coach, just recruit.
People thought Nebraska should hire him.
Yeah, not as a head coach. No, thank you.
No,
No, for me, I'm saying
that was
not as a
when
head coach.
that people were talking.
No, Auburn is very toxic in very similar ways to A&M. A ton of money, little brother in their own state, not nearly enough success to justify their
Have they
expectations.
fired him today yet?
Who?
Auburn.
No, they're not going to fire him.
Why not?
Hugh Freeze?
Oh yeah, he just got hired.
Yeah,
That's
he
right.
just there last year.
I was thinking Harsin, who's gonna probably go back to Boise State, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably.
The job's open.
Coming up next, we've got more college football to cover. Lots of stuff here today. I guess Sam's ghosting us. No big deal. We move on here.
Actually, we're going to have him at 8:43.
Okay, cool. We'll have him at 8:43.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Off his right hip. Two receivers split wide right. It's Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson. Inside handoff, Corum. He's got a hole. Corum breaks a tackle to the 10, to the 5. Blake Corum to the end zone. Touchdown, Wolverines. 22 yards, and Michigan extends the lead to 23-17.
We're halfway through the show here on a Monday here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi, Lulla, Mike Sautter here with me. We are live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the H&H Chevrolet stage on AM 590 ESPN Omaha and ESPN Tri-Cities. A reminder, using your seatbelt saves lives and prevents injuries, but only if it is properly worn. Make sure it clicks. This message is from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. We are going to talk to Sam McKewon at 8:45, apparently, as what
8:42.
8:43. Excuse me, my bad.
8:43.
I like to round sometimes to quarters of the quarters of the hour. We'll talk to him in the next segment, though. It sounds like he's having some technology issues, so we'll catch up with Sam here in a little bit. One of the things that I also wanted to get to, I love talking about coaches and coaching changes. I don't know why. It's like a little guilty pleasure of mine. Some of the ones to catch up on that you might have missed from the weekend. We talked a lot about Mike Elko going to Texas A&M from Duke. Jonathan Smith.
That's a great hire.
It's a terrific hire. I'm a little surprised he didn't. And listen, at this point, there's not a ton of really high-profile jobs open. But I was a little surprised he didn't maybe wait a little longer to see if something else came up. But Michigan State, I think, is a pretty decent job.
Well, he wasn't going to stay at Oregon State.
No, that's because that's a really hard job. And obviously, with the situation with the Pac-12,
in the Mountain 12.
It's
you're going to be in the Mountain 2.
It's a really hard job.
What happens when I do? Okay, I should have let you finish.
No, let's go ahead.
My fault. But what happens when a conference just
ceases to exist?
Yeah, like what is going to happen? What do the offices do? What are the where does the money go?
Well, so there's actually a court case right now. Washington State and Oregon State have preliminarily been granted control over all of the Pac-12 funds.
Okay, yeah.
So they're each in line to make like $200 million.
Yeah.
Each of those, because all of the money that was going to be dispersed to the 12 teams that have left the conference,
right?
The precedent,
they don't get it.
Yeah,
isn't there a fee too for
exiting?
To leave?
Yeah.
So where's that? That's why I'm curious. Like, where's all this? Where's all?
So
the
that's
money
why Oregon State and Washington State haven't officially joined the Mountain West yet, is because as long as they stay, they get that money.
Got it.
So a judge literally ruled, I think a couple weeks ago, that they are owed that money because the precedent in the Pac-12 that have been set, and it's in their bylaws, was that once you leave the conference, you no longer have a voting right and you no longer have money rights.
Like, does George Kialkov just he's just pocket a bunch of cash on his way out? Or
I mean, he probably gets.
He already did for doing nothing.
For letting the conference implode.
Yeah,
I think he gets paid until those two teams, because you get, I believe, 2 years. Because the NCAA has a rule of you have to have 8 teams to be a conference.
Right.
You get 2 years of probation to try and get back to that 8 number.
Right.
So unless they want to try and raid the Mountain West and save the Pac-12 name, whatever, basically it would just be the.
But if you're the Mountain West, you're like, no, we're good. We'll take these 2 guys and then we'll make our conference even better.
Basically, what it would be is, if you wanted to, I think what it would be is if you wanted to rebrand the Mountain West as the Pac-12, then those teams would get a cut of the money. So that would be advantageous for them because the Pac-12 has more money coming to them and available than.
So you change the name.
Basically. You would but it would technically be the Pac-12 expanding with the Mountain West team.
But actually,
essentially, it would be the Mountain West renaming itself the Pac-12.
Which, whatever.
It doesn't really. It only matters for the money, right?
Right.
And so if Oregon State and Washington State say, "Hey, we're going to give you a cut of this $200 million we got coming to us if you allow us to do this," then that makes sense for the Mountain West teams because that's more money than they've seen in their entire life, no matter what percentage of that they get. And it makes sense for Washington State and Oregon State because they get to keep a huge chunk of cash.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if
reverse order. Basically.
Yes. I don't know if that's actually how it's going to play out, but that seems like how they're positioning it right now.
Got it.
And the rulings of the court of how the bylaw should be interpreted have supported that. So that's where we're at right now. But yes, for Jonathan Smith's purposes, doesn't make sense for him to stay at Oregon State. Even if there still was a real Pac-12, that's a really hard job, a place that's really hard to win consistently long-term.
I mean, look at it. Mike Riley won there for like a minute.
For a minute, although not as much as Dennis Erickson won there for a minute. It's kind of funny because I think Mike Riley accidentally gets credit for the Dennis Erickson years, and the Dennis Erickson years were actually better than the Mike Riley years. So that's always abused me a little bit because like that Fiesta Bowl team wasn't a Mike Riley team; it was a Dennis Erickson team. When they went and played Notre Dame back in 2000 or whatever, back when he was off coaching the San Diego Chargers, which is a thing.
Oh yeah, Mike Riley,
which is a thing that happened that people forget about. Yeah. But I actually think Michigan State's a pretty good job.
It's just in the East. It's on that. Well, I guess it used to be in the East. Now they're not going to have that anymore. But
I think it's because I don't think the expectations there are crazy.
Yeah.
Not compared to some of these other places we're talking about.
No, but still, obviously,
if you beat Michigan,
they want to be Michigan.
They want to. I don't even know if they.
They want to be Michigan.
They want to beat Michigan. I don't know that they actually think they can be Michigan.
Right, but they like to beat them like once every 8 years.
If you beat Michigan like once a recruiting cycle and you make it to bowl games every year, you could coach Michigan State forever.
I'm thinking that, yeah, that's true.
Like if you went once every 3 or 4 years, you beat Michigan.
Saban did a great job there.
The last couple of years he did. He was kind of mediocre before that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But for Michigan
State,
yeah,
like you like that, right?
Right.
You don't have to win big at Michigan State.
What happens if Kirk Ferentz just is like, you know what, I'm done? I know Scott said he's got 2, 3, whatever.
I don't know if I buy that. I really don't.
The emotion part and the sun part, and
that's what I mean. Like I know he feels because it wasn't just after Nebraska. He's been getting emotional the last month.
Yeah,
it feels really weird. Like I am not
that job.
I am not convinced. I mean, Stoops, the guy that we just talked about with A&M,
that's the guy.
He makes sense of that job.
Bob Stoops, call Bob.
I mean, Bob's gonna say no,
but just call
him first, and he'll be like, "Hey, call Mark. I'll come be assistant to the head coach." It's Stoops or Bielema.
Yeah,
which either one, home runs, great hires.
Yeah.
I think you probably take Stoops over Bielema, right?
Probably, yeah. Just because of what Illinois is kind of turned into. This year, but
Illinois is a hard job.
Yeah,
though.
real
hard. I think either Stoops or Bielema, no brainers. One of those guys takes the job. You're good to
Parker
go.
do? Just retire.
Phil Parker probably stays and be his defensive coordinator for another decade. Because what else is he gonna do?
Man.
He's awesome at his job.
Good.
Like what else is he gonna do?
Unbelievable.
Does he even want to be a head coach?
Probably no.
He would have had
at this point. No,
he would have had opportunities with as good as he is at his job. If he wanted to be a head coach, he could have left
for sure.
It's like a, you remember. I mean, here you had Charlie McBride here forever.
Yeah,
he wanted to
he had options.
If he wanted to be a head coach, he could have left.
Options.
Mark Andrews down at Florida State, who was with Bobby Bowden forever.
He just
sometimes Mickey Andrews, not Mark. Mickey. Mark Andrews is the tight end for
Mickey.
for the Ravens. But yeah, Mickey Andrews was there.
Who's the guy at Virginia Tech, the defensive coordinator?
Oh, Beamer's guy.
Hat.
I know who you're talking. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, those guys all have opportunities to leave. And if they haven't yet, they just want to be DCs, which I actually really appreciate the self-awareness there to be like, yeah, maybe head coaching isn't for me.
Maybe.
Because, I mean, rules talked about this. It's a very different job.
Yeah.
Like
you're
if
not
you're
coaching.
Yeah. If you're a high major head football coach,
you're not
actually You don't
not
actually get to coach football that
not
much.
like in the guts of it every day.
Yeah. You don't get to coach that much football.
right.
Like that. I mean, one of my favorite lines
Sometimes people are just good at being
at the
good
football
at-
stuff.
Yeah, like,
gets a
that's what
different
they
skill
wanna
set.
do. Yep.
He talked about it with Tony White. It is a different skill set. And
Mhm.
I mean, one of my favorite lines from him this year is like, yeah, before I became a head coach, I was pretty good at coaching football.
Right.
Like, and it's true though. It is a totally different job. So I would imagine Phil Parker, if the next guy wants him, which you should want him because he's very good at his job, would just stay there. Why wouldn't he?
People wanted to fire Matt Campbell too. Like, remember
Dude, Matt Campbell's a
everybody
good
wants to
football
fire-
coach.
He's a way good football coach.
That job is so hard, and he's been way better at it than everybody else that's ever.
I'm sure Nebraska kicked the tires there.
If
call,
if they had
I'm
hired,
sure they did.
if they had fired Frost after the season rather than in the next season, after 21 instead of during 22,
they would have got it.
I think Matt Campbell was the guy at that point.
Yeah.
And I think Matt Rule's a better hire, but I wouldn't have been mad about Matt Campbell.
No, not at all.
Coming up next, we think we've got Sam McKewon. We'll see how that goes. Coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Here is the sports editor for the Omaha World-Herald, Sam McKewon.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Sam McKewon.
We're gonna throw the ball, and you just stand back there and throw it where you want to go. And that kind of thing.
Sam McKewon.
Are you guys going? Sure.
Now, Sam McKewon.
As we wrap up hour number 2, we are joined by Sam McKewon of the Omaha World-Herald on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline. Sam, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing great, Sam. We're doing great.
Good to see you, man. Good to hear your voice.
It's always good to hear your voice, Sam.
We are we're doing well. We're, getting into the weeds on the coaching carousel a little bit. I know you follow college football pretty closely outside of just Nebraska. Were you surprised at all that Texas A&M didn't take a bigger swing than Mark Stoops and Mike Elko?
Well, maybe a little. I will say that I think going defense would make a lot of sense for that program. I think that's a program that is probably not going to out Texas or out LSU for offensive talent. And so you got to do something different. And I think Jimbo Fisher tried to do that. He tried to get those kind of players, and they weren't able to do it. So I think they're probably going to try to rebuild their identity around defense. When Texas A&M was really good, that's what they did. They were the wrecking crew defense, and they had a running quarterback, and they ran the ball a lot, and they won a lot of football games playing defense and blitzing and all the things that they used to do with all the guys that they had. So it doesn't surprise me that they went to defense. When you're doing that, now, there aren't as many of those guys around anymore. You go back 15, 20 years and there would have been more of them, but Elko is, he's well respected. I think Mark Stoops would have built that kind of program down there. I don't know how great that program is going to win under Stoops, but you just never know. I mean, A&M has to decide what it wants its identity to be, and then the expectations have to match, the resource commitment, as Matt Rule was talking about last week in relation of jobs. Now that Texas and Oklahoma are in the league, I'm just telling you right now, Texas and Oklahoma will always get better offensive skill than A&M. They always have, and that won't change. So, A&M's making an interesting choice.
What's to Nebraska, right? Like, it feels like Friday was 2 months ago at this point, but as you, I guess, take it all in, what's the one or two positives that, looking ahead to next year and beyond, you'd take away from this season?
Oh, a number of positives from this season. If we're talking about the whole season, or even if we're talking about that game, a number of positives. One, I think Nebraska more than held its own on the line of scrimmage this season. I think they won the line of scrimmage in a majority of their games, maybe even a super majority of their games. That's encouraging.
defense to offense, they controlled the line of scrimmage quite a bit. Wisconsin, they did. I think that was the one game where I said Wisconsin maybe a little bit better, but as we all kind of saw with Wisconsin, that's probably a 9-3 team if the quarterback and the running back stay healthy, and they didn't. They got hurt. So we won't ever quite know what Wisconsin could have been, but I suspect Wisconsin was a better football team than its record. So I think the line of scrimmage. I like the picture in the secondary, provided the assumed guys return. I think they could have a very nice secondary in 2024. That part is encouraging. I think, there's a pretty clear sense of how they want to play defense, the culture on the defensive side of the ball. Those are probably the positives I would take. I think special teams is still a work in progress. I like the aggressiveness that Nebraska has on special teams. I thought they made some plays. They blocked, I think, 3 kicks. They executed a fake punt, so there's a level of aggression there with Nebraska that's encouraging. And then, there's lots of things on the offense to fix. And you could view that as a positive. Like, they're going to go into the offseason knowing that there's lots of things that they can do and have young players in which to do.
Sam, on the other side of things, obviously the quarterback position gets the most amount of attention as something that needs fixed for next year. But what was another concern outside of that position that you think, hey, this is something that I think really needs addressed? Obviously turnovers, but I mean more on a positional level. Where is the area you'd like to see improve the most outside of quarterback?
Still think they can get better along the offensive line. Still think they can get better at running back, although that picture wasn't bad with Emmett Johnson. At receiver, I think everybody knows those guys are better. So the assumption is that those players are going to improve, and they must. And I'm talking Malachi Coleman, Jalen Moy, Jade Doss, Demetrius Bell didn't play this year, but within the program, they think he might be the best one of the bunch. So we'll see him next year. Badoni took a step. I'm sure Thomas thinks he can take 2 more. The skill players just need to develop. The quarterback play, there's a variety of things there. The other thing that I would say is that, there's 2 different ways to look at the way that Matt Rule wants his team to play offense. And one way is to say, listen, when you play like this, you're turning it over too much. It's like you're handing, a 5-course meal to a chef that's really not ready to do it. And maybe the chef should just be making the 2 courses, The flip side of the coin is, how's the chef ever going to learn how to do it if he doesn't fail with the 5 courses? And so what I'll say for Matt Rule is that they were aggressive this season. They wanted to go win games. They wanted to make big plays. They allowed their quarterbacks to drop back and throw the ball when they probably weren't very good at it. They did a lot of things that Iowa doesn't do. And the hope is, down the line, they benefit from it. They benefit from their failures this year. And one thing Matt Rule can honestly stand in front of this team and say is, I want us to go win football games. I don't want us to not lose them. And until we're ready to win these games, playing the way I want us to play, we're not going to win them. And so the process of winning might be accelerated, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm reading a pretty good piece, I think, in The Athletic today about Ryan Day and how when they play Michigan, he changes. And he doesn't play. He just doesn't. He coaches safe. And I think that's a reasonable critique of Ryan Day when he gets to that game. And B, outside of the situation at Wisconsin, which I was, and to be clear, in favor of how Matt Rule handled that, I think Matt Rule tried to play to win all season long. And I thought, you can applaud that to some degree. Now you need your guys to back you up, and that's something that they've got to get a lot better at.
So Ravi wants a quarterback coach, a dedicated quarterback coach. where do you shift things around if that is a move that Nebraska makes? Who do you take off the road or move to analyst or whatever?
Yeah, you'd move the tight ends coach to
Back.
the role that he previously had
Hmm.
and do it that way. And Satterfield oversees that. There you have it. So the tight ends coach role, it's pretty obvious to me, Mike, that like when they got rid of Sean Beckton, who was one hell of a tight end coach, they were basically saying, we don't really need a tight end coach, because they replaced Beckton with a high school football coach who wasn't really there to coach the tight ends. He was there for recruiting.
Right.
And of course, he got himself fired, essentially. And then they replaced him with a guy that's actually a tight ends coach, but I don't know if they feel like they need a tight ends coach, if that makes sense.
Got it.
I do think they could benefit from a quarterback coach. I really do. Somewhere along the way here, okay, so Satterfield's up in the booth. Matt Rule's over there talking to the quarterback. It'd be good if the quarterback's able to run off the field and have a quarterback coach to talk to, so that honestly, Rule can reduce his number of contacts with that guy, and and coach a little different.
One voice,
because I feel
basically.
like, Rule does a lot of coaching of the quarterbacks down there, and I get it. Like, I understand it. I think, especially when Satterfield isn't there, you want to get the guy coming right off the field. But I think it might benefit a quarterback to have a coach that he can talk to, because Matt Rule's busy coaching coaching the football game.
Right.
And so that I don't know. The play calling operation needs to get better too. Like, just so we're clear, the calls themselves are what they are, but Nebraska had too many delays in game or blown timeouts, stuff like that. They got to figure that stuff out, get a little faster with their operation, especially in 2-minute drill.
Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, we appreciate you joining us, even for a little bit of an abbreviated segment this morning, and hope you have a good rest of your week.
You too. Take care.
That is Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Before we head into hour number 3 and our old friend Damon Benning, want to tell you about our friends over at Dyer Law. If you've been injured in a personal injury accident, you can count on the Dyer Law team to provide you with a helping hand when you need it, no matter what you're dealing with. Call the Dyer Law team at 402-393-7529 or visit dyer.law to chat with trusted professionals about your personal injury claim. That's DYER.law. Coming up next, we will chat with Old DB here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590 ESPN Omaha and ESPN Tri-Cities.
Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Jumbo goes shotgun, trips go right. Malachi to the near side. Purdy hands out, gets the snap, back to throw. Has some time, takes a shot down the field. Has a man out there, the pass is caught at the 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Jalen Lloyd. He burns at Iowa secondary, and Nebraska's on the boat.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Mike Sautter here with me. We're live on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and for hour number 3, we're on KFOR in Lincoln. We are joined now by our friend Old DB, Damon Benning. How you doing this morning, buddy?
I'm good, man. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're chopping it up about a lot of nonsense, as Sautter and I have a tendency to do.
Need more coffee.
Need more coffee. Yeah, we just finished we had an 8:00 pep rally at the high school. So one of the pros to looking for a job is I get to do a lot of early morning stuff. So that's all good. I like the pep rallies.
You do like the pep rallies, obviously celebrating a nice little state championship there with your Westside Warriors. Stu put out and I know you'll be objective here, all right? So I'm gonna put this to you.
100%.
Stu put out a little article on the Omaha World-Herald, kind of talking about the place of this team historically. I think everyone can agree it is one of the best It is one of the best teams we've ever seen in state history. In your mind, I know you're a historian here, DB.
Yeah.
Where do you rank this team yourself amongst, say, like 03 Millard North, 85 Prep, 82 Westside, 19 Bell West? Like, trying to be as objective as possible. Where do you think this team sits?
Well, let's say 85 Prep, for instance. We would have had a hard time with their size up front.
Sure.
Right?
Same thing with like 03 Millard North.
Although I'll take my chances with 03 Millard North.
Really?
I would. I mean, Seth Olson was a monster. Jake Galusha is arguably the best high school. Well, I'll put it to you like this. Jake Galusha is one of the top 10 high school football players I have ever seen live. He was an absolute monster.
Yes.
But if you fast forward kind of what I've learned about that offense and what they like to do, because remember, as a part of a defense that coached against Millard North, that didn't give up a rushing touchdown for almost 12 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe we could have figured that out if I could fast forward into what I learned later on in my career. They would have been a handful. 19 Bellevue West, I think we beat.
Agreed.
2014 North.
Yeah, they get left out of this conversation.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, that team defensively was unreal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, Calvin Strong would have probably wore on us. I think if I get to game plan, I probably know what we would want to do against them offensively. Defensively, they probably would have caused us some problems. I mean, the discussion it's a great one, but they definitely belong, especially in an era where, you can't really touch guys. You're spread out. I just think schematically we could do so many different things. The one thing I think is going to be really underappreciated is we could scheme teams to death, especially defensively. We had a really, really, really smart football team. So, we could do a lot of different things.
I wonder where everyone got this conversation from. I'm just saying. Anyway, yeah.
Hey, I'll give. Listen, okay, fine. I'm going to give the devil his due, right? When you said it, in the summer, I chuckled, right? I was like, yeah, come on, man. Like, we got a long way to go. And maybe I'm too close to it, but you were spot on.
Yeah.
So,
well, and DB, let me stop you there for just a second, because
I'm just saying that was on August 8th.
I caught.
Listen, I actually chuckled at you a little bit. I'm like, this dude has lost his mind. But we had so many guys rise to the occasion, that developed, and we stayed healthy.
Yeah.
Right. We had good fortune. We stayed.
That was
healthy,
the biggest thing.
That's a big deal, because one of the coaches, actually two, I'll leave the schools out. Two of the schools that we played in the last 7 games, so gives you a little window, said the difference is your dudes are just better than our dudes. That's the difference. I kind of chuckled a little bit, because I think our role guys are the difference. I think they're the guys that were better than everybody else's.
Bo Ryan.
So
yeah,
he's unbelievable. If I'm going to say this, and I'm going to leave it right here. If Bo Ryan is not all state, I know people don't watch football. He led our team in tackles.
Yeah.
Just say that out loud. He led our team in tackles.
Yeah.
He was an absolute nightmare. He allowed us to do some things with coverage, because we trust him in the run game with 6 in the box. That is unheard of. I'm just telling you.
He did. Best linebacker in Class A.
He's a great player.
Right.
And may not play and may not play college football.
Yeah.
So he's unbelievable.
DB, would it be fair to say, and this is kind of a weird way to put it, but I think you'll understand what I'm saying here, would it be fair to say that you guys had by far the best non-D1 guys in the state?
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Because that's what made the
Like,
difference, right? Is because you have
well, see, and it's our philosophy. One for one for all, right? The whole weakest link, strong link. The whole, you know what? Like, do your 1 of 11. Like, you guys know our personalities, and the 1 of 11, and to do your job and to maximize. Like, that's what made Coach Lamanji such a good fit, because he believes all those same things. And so when you watch his practice, and everybody understands their role and they embrace it. Like, our scrappy squad won like players of the week as a unit.
Right.
That's how, when you simulate Miller North's offense, you better be pretty good. When you need an Isaiah McMorris to simulate on offense, like, it helps if you have that guy on your roster and he's willing to do it. So it just, I agree with you. That's probably the best description I've heard thus far.
Let me
our non-stars were really, really good players.
Let me ask you this though, because you rattled off a bunch of your like philosophies and stuff right there, but a lot of people say those things, right? Like,
no, this is like a culture thing.
No, I know, but that's what I'm getting to, right? Like, everybody wants to be, or most people want to be about those things. The difference was you actually were about it, and you got a bunch of 14 to 18-year-olds to be about it. Like, how does that happen? Because that's the tricky part. The philosophy is not uncommon, right? It's the execution.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah.
So how did you get there?
Well, it's a lot like why I like the positives with Nebraska, and we'll get to that in a sec, I'm sure. But there's no other way to do it. It's a non-negotiable. Sautter can speak to this. When we practice a certain way. When we do things off the field, we do it a certain way. I think deep down, everybody wants to be led, whether it's adults, kids. I've said this before, right? So, it's a non-negotiable. The inmates will never run the asylum, for lack of a better term. In this culture, it's about being other-centered. Again, if you're willing to want to invest and hang out with one another and go to team dinners and have to sit at different tables and go do Christmas carols and move books at the Salvation Army and spend an inordinate amount of time at senior retreats or going camping or things that make you uncomfortable, then it's for you, right? Our coach, he and Coach Rizak got together and they wrote a preseason letter. And I don't want to make this about Westside because this is probably a Nebraska segment, but they wrote us they wrote a letter to the team, and it laid out the season. Okay. And it was, August 25th, Westside 38, Prep 10. And they go through our schedule. And the schedule hypothetically had a couple of losses. And it had us getting beat November 3rd by Omaha North, 28-21. It said it's over. The season's over. The senior's career ends. It's over. It's obvious where everyone stands. We were tight. And then it goes through this scenario. And I think I can't remember the exact record, but it had us losing 2 games. And I remember we met as a team with the seniors and we went over the letter, and everybody had to jot down kind of how it made them feel reading it, whether it was anger, sad, oh yeah, I could see this happening if we're not on our game. And then we talked about strategically what we had to do to keep that from being the actual outcome. Nobody else is doing that.
No.
And not meaning it, right? We spent 4 hours talking about that as a team. So I just think those things are uncommon, but we make them commonplace. And I ultimately think you don't get the Jack Wings and the Bo Ryans and the Brock Regners and the Nick Anglums, the guys that nobody talks about.
Spady.
The Trevor Spadeys. The Aaron Cardinales, and everybody's like, who? Because sure, we could have we don't have a Laquana, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we have 11 of Laquanas, like, would that work? Right? So it's like, it's about fit. We don't have 11 or Tyson Terrys, but if we had 11 Tyson Terrys, would that work? So I ultimately think it's about, some people need to be led and some people need to be good followers, and you can't be both. And loving, like truly loving one another, like cheering for each other, 7-on-7, go back to these tournaments.
Yeah.
Like loving one another and supporting one another. We cheered for Braylon Warren without having Rizek there.
Yeah.
Like he was one of our own. He's a 14-year-old kid, right? You never would have been able to tell that Braylon Warren had never taken a varsity snap. He just ran 7-on-7s for us in that tournament because he was next man up. And he's the future next year. And it's just stuff like that I think is uncommon.
Yeah, but I thought who are you guys recruiting now though for next year though?
That's such a misnomer. It's so disappointing.
But if you ask everybody though, it's all about you're only good because you recruit everybody.
Yeah. Listen, losers have a losing mentality, and listen, I'm what like I'm 100% serious. Like it eats at me a little bit. That people will say whatever, they don't really understand how public education works.
They're uneducated people. Uneducated people.
We talk about. Listen. I'm gonna keep it above board here. You got a couple of choices. Open enrollment. You can invite people into your district that otherwise maybe wouldn't have the opportunity, or you can take some time to understand tax-based revenue in terms of public education. You can have high levies and have elite amenities. You can have great buildings in 5 fields and multiple high-paid staff and laptops and technology, and you can do all that, right? And you don't have to have bond issues because your community and your neighborhoods can support your school. That's okay. Unapologetically, that's okay, right? Or you can open up your enrollment because you don't have numbers, risk taking on a certain amount of let's say socioeconomic cases, right? Free and reduced rate looks a certain way. Building your staff works a certain way. Your special education staff looks a certain way. Your caseload looks a certain way. Or you can do it that way too. But unfortunately, not everybody can afford and to move and to live in areas that they would like to. So I think it's important for those individuals to be able to have opportunities to take advantage of what public education has to offer. And I leave it at that.
Yeah.
DB, we'll switch to Nebraska here in a second. I'm just going to tag on to what you said there. When I was at Miller North and the IB program got introduced and students flooded into Miller North, nobody had boo to say about it. So I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, when I was at Northwest and we tried to do redistricting and still promote DSEG, it fell on deaf ears too. So like I've been on both sides of the enrollment issue, and I told our kids after in the locker room back at Westside, don't apologize for being what we are, one community, and whoever wants to be a part of that community, come on and be a part of that community. But the recruiting thing, I mean, it is what it is when you don't understand. We're tempted to release the enrollment data, but a lot of our administration is a little smarter than me, so they didn't want to get down into the weeds.
All right, DB.
They're not near as emotional, right? Like
right.
They're not near as emotional as me, and sometimes that's a good thing, right? Like sometimes I need a governor.
DB, let's switch gears to Nebraska here, and I think there's a lot of overlap, but between the way
100%.
You've said how Westside runs things and the way Nebraska is trying to run things. I think that's one of the reasons you like Coach Rule so much, is because of that common belief in how things should be done. After year one, how do you think Coach Rule did in establishing those parts of the culture that you believe and I believe and Westside has shown are integral to winning?
Yeah, the culture's a 10. You ask the guys. Ask Ty Robinson. Ask Jalen Lloyd. Ask Luke Reimer. Pick another young guy just so we're even Steven.
Malachi Coleman.
Take Malachi Coleman. The culture is and accountability is the number one start. And I think it starts at the top, right? I know how those coaches feel. I take Maryland, right? I know, listen, we got to get back to the drawing board. We got to get better situationally. I look at Wisconsin. Guys, you know what? We can't have this. I need, when we're operating as a staff on the sidelines and it's crunch time, this is what we need to do. It manifested itself again at Iowa. Though that staff will take accountability for them needing to get better. And in turn, the players see that, right? Caring, not coddling. It starts with the adults in the room. Hey, what do you mean, like when on in our travel plans, the itinerary said this, and this. It should be this, and this. Don't let that happen again. Are we clear? Yep, coach, we got it. It's the same way with the players. Hey, you had a 3-person route here, Chubba. You went to the third option with that layered concept. Talk to me about what you saw. Well, I saw this, and this. All right, they picked it. Herky got in the passing lane. How do we get – like, it goes on and on and on about accountability, but the culture is definitely a 10. The player development is on the rise. I hear the kind of the back and forth in the dialogue about coaching quarterbacks or not coaching quarterbacks or play calling or whatever, right? From a development standpoint and players getting better, it's hard to reconcile that doesn't get a plus grade. The in-game acumen, the situational awareness from staff to player, that's probably where this program has to take the biggest jump. You have an inordinate amount of inexcusable timeouts burned. You have mulligans where you say, I wish I had that play back. Like things like that, that's where the next growth in this program has to happen. You can always say you want better players, and I understand that. But what are you doing in the meantime until you get those better players? You have to control the controllables. So for this staff, it's situational awareness, sequence in play calling, sequential play calling, tackling in crunch time, run fits. For all the hand-wringing about the offense, if we get 3 guys to fit differently on that long run in the waning seconds against Iowa, they don't make that field goal, right? But conversely, you played against a team whose culture was so entrenched, where the believability, the belief factor was so high, they could insert a walk-on kicker for the game winner and live with the results. So that part is possible, and it's a real thing in competition. It's can you control the controllables in the meantime where that stuff matters. Because culture is cool, but if you're in the gift-giving business, it is the great equalizer. So you can't have it both ways.
What's the one, I guess, position group that exceeded your expectations this year for Nebraska?
Offensive line.
Okay, me too.
Offensive line.
Yep, same.
Offensive line.
Yeah.
Nebraska's ability to hang in there in the trenches, I think, was unbelievable. For even as much as Michigan showed, you guys remember those Ginsu commercials, like the knives?
Yeah.
It's like the greatest cutlery ever, right? So as good as those running backs were in terms of just cutting up and dissecting Nebraska early in that first half, I felt like along the line of scrimmage they held their own for the most part. And Wisconsin, I felt like was a toss-up. You know, people will say Wisconsin controlled the line of scrimmage. When Braylon Allen goes 22 for 62, I wouldn't say that's controlling. When your quarterback has to improvise and scramble in QB run game, I don't know if that's controlling the line of scrimmage. I didn't love Nebraska's commitment to the run game in Madison, but when they did, they could run the ball. So I think 90% of the time in the games Nebraska's played, I'm encouraged that defensively and offensively along the lines, they could hold their own. So I think the offensive line far and away exceeded my expectations.
DB, 2 minutes here. Where is one area, whether it's on the field, off the field, whatever? I'm going to take quarterbacks out of it because that's the obvious one. But where's an area where that caused you the most concern on this year's team that they have to get fixed for next year?
Situational awareness, down and distance, and not being predictable, right? There's only so many times you can be in 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 5 and get in the 3-by-1 and empty the backfield and not know what routes are coming, right? You can only have so many times where you don't have the right personnel grouping in and you have to burn a timeout. I'm going to give Coach Rule the benefit of the doubt, but remember, in the presser, right, that wasn't one of his better post-game press conferences, right? I mean, he said out loud that they were going to fake a field goal from the 50. I don't know if I got to take him at his word, but I would have a hard time believing that, especially when Iowa played in punt safe. So where am I and what am I doing has always been big in my life, right? Sometimes I'm really, really good at it. Sometimes when I'm bad, I'm awful. No different than this coaching staff. Where am I and what am I doing? The better you are at that, the more opportunity you give yourself to operate at a high level of efficiency.
That is Damon Benning. DB, we appreciate your time. Really, really good stuff today. I'm sure we will catch up with you again soon.
Hey, anytime, man. I'm here for you.
Hey, catch a nap.
So, you know what? I really can't.
I know.
I'm like a moving target, man. I gotta figure out life. I'm on the attack.
All right, buddy. Yeah, you figure things out, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right, air high fives. A lot of depth to go around, man.
All right, buddy. That is our guy DB. We will continue with.
I might catch a nap.
You gonna catch a nap?
I don't think so.
You need to catch some new tires.
Yeah.
We need to do. We got more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
3 receivers left. Now Swift goes in motion. Hurts on a quarterback draw. He's at the 5. He's in. Touchdown. The Eagles win. Hurts does it again.
Oh, my God.
Hurts does it again.
Are you kidding me?
Watson in motion. They're going to throw a crossing pattern. Caught Rice, 30. Angling 25 up the sideline. 15 inside the 5. Touchdown! Kansas City! A 39-yard crossing pattern. And then zooming up the sideline. Rashee Rice with one of the biggest plays this season.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi, Lulla. Mike Sautter here with me on a Monday. We have just a half hour left here in the show on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. We're live from the H&H Chevrolet stage. It is time for the Warhorse Sportsbook Sports Cleanup. Getting to a bunch of the stuff we haven't gotten to yet today. It's been a Nebraska and college football heavy day and tire. It's been a tire heavy day.
Tires.
Just trying to get Sautter some new tires.
Still trying to
for his car.
Get an appointment.
That's all right. We'll figure it out.
Used to be able to just roll in there and just get it done.
There's a lot of stuff over this busy weekend.
Frank Reich got fired.
Yeah, let's start there. So Carolina Panthers fired Frank Reich, not even through his first full season in Carolina. So what I'm learning here is maybe Matt Rule wasn't the problem there.
I don't
maybe.
know.
Well, and listen,
Panthers
this is fully acknowledging he's probably much better suited for college than the NFL.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
just his personality. But Carolina fans pinning all of their frustrations.
Frank Reich was 40, 33-1
heading into this year
in Indianapolis, and had a different starting quarterback every year. That's pretty dang good.
Yeah, I think Frank Reich is genuinely a pretty good football coach.
I feel like the owner wants to be the coach in this.
Yeah, there's we talked about with coordinators and head coaches how it's a different skill set. Being a successful businessman like Dave Tepper and owning a football team successfully are different skill sets. It seems like Dave Tepper maybe has not learned the football owner skill set yet and is struggling. He's struggling a little bit. This is his third head coach he's fired. his second in season in back-to-back years. Maybe I'm just saying, maybe it's an organizational problem.
Feels like it's an organizational problem. As someone that's a New York Jets fan, and we can't win ever.
Yeah, you would know all about organizational problems.
Yep.
Well, and there's some, I think Saleh's a really good coach. I like Robert Saleh. I don't think Hackett's a very good coach.
He's gonna make it.
I don't know if he's gonna make it either, but I do think he's a good football coach. He's definitely a great defensive coordinator.
He'll make it next year.
Yeah.
One more year. Again,
they're gonna go status quo this year.
As a New York Jets fan, go all the way in next year. Like spend whatever you got to on the
picks,
old man free agents, trade the picks for players, move up in the draft
1
to
year.
get players.
Just Los Angeles Rams this thing.
Yes.
All in 1 year. Future be damned.
Yeah.
If they do that, can they weather the storm if somebody else does it?
No. What do you mean if somebody else does it?
If somebody else tries to do the same thing, would the Jets be able to pull it off?
No one else has Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback for next year.
Well, the Kansas City Chiefs got Patrick Mahomes. He's a little bit better.
Should have beat the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes this year. Without Aaron Rodgers, we got cheated.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
I'm just wondering, Mike. That's all.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
How's Rashid Rice doing over there, Shane?
They do need to get some receivers. I mean, what are they doing?
Who?
The Chiefs. What are they doing?
I don't know, man.
Just wasting a Patrick Mahomes year makes me mad.
I like it.
They'll be fine. They'll be right, and they'll be AFC championship.
I get
game
they
at
will
a
be
minimum.
in the thick of it.
They
but
might make it to the Super Bowl again.
It's true. They very well might. And they might.
I don't think the AFC's as good as people thought it was.
No, because you got Buffalo's down. I don't think Miami's real.
Buffalo's down. They got like 2 losses.
Buffalo has like 5
Or
losses.
do they?
Yeah, Buffalo's not
Okay.
been good.
I don't know. We beat them.
Yeah, and that means they can't be very good.
Allen was doing some Allen things over the weekend.
What, turning the ball over?
Yesterday.
That's an Allen thing.
Philly's good. How about this? The
that's the
Jets,
NFC,
Jets
though.
have 4 wins. Beat Buffalo and Philly.
Yeah, Philly's a good win. That's their
Beat those two
only
teams.
loss is
Whoever comes out of the NFC is winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think it's either
San Francisco,
49ers
Philly.
or Philly. That's it.
Yeah.
It's those 2 teams.
Yeah.
One of those teams is winning the Super Bowl.
49ers are really good.
Yeah, the 3-game slide notwithstanding, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Listen, it happens.
It don't matter.
Yeah.
It's the NFL.
If they're whoever's the healthiest out of those 2 teams is winning the Super Bowl.
Ravens defense looks pretty nice.
Ravens defense is pretty good. If Lamar can stay healthy, that'll be nice. He's had issues with
Still
that.
make some decisions.
Yeah, I don't totally trust him.
I don't like their receiver core that much either, which has
No.
been a thing forever.
Yeah. They've tried to improve it, but I don't know that I like the
Yeah,
pieces
send
that
old
much.
OBJ. That's I don't know. We signed Dalvin Cooks.
How'd that go? How'd the
It's
Dalvin
not going
How'd the
great.
Dalvin Cook thing go?
$10 million.
Any other NFL headlines that are really burning your pocket?
Not really.
Yeah, I
I
didn't.
mean, kind of status quo yesterday.
Yeah, I thought so. I didn't think anything crazy.
Oh, I got one.
You're really
The
excited.
Patriots suck, and it's awesome.
They are very, very bad. This
Love
is Bill
it.
Belichick's last year as the Patriots head coach.
Sasha.
Like that's, I mean, his is last year.
Yeah,
I think they might try and-
Sasha's favorite team is.
I don't think they're going to fire him. I think they're going to try and trade him because I think somebody will trade for Bill Belichick.
Oh, if you're DC or the
Commanders.
Gosh, I was going to
Washington.
the other name. Washington and the Raiders. I'm telling you, I would see what I could
That
do.
feels like a Mark Davis play to give like overpay for Bill Belichick when you don't have a team that's good enough. Because that team's not good enough to matter. Chargers would be interesting.
I mean, he's done, right? Like they're just playing out the string.
Yeah.
They're like, why we'll just finish the year.
Absolutely. I mean, the Chargers is the most interesting one because they have the pieces on defense to be good.
Justin Herbert's
They
really
have Justin
good,
Herbert. They have a
and
quarterback.
they're getting him killed.
The problem with the Raiders is they don't have the pieces to be good enough for Belichick to matter.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, it doesn't matter the money because Belichick's not necessarily going to want the money. I mean, he's going to get the money, but that's not his. He doesn't need the money. He's already got the money. I mean, he's sitting there with, tons and tons of money as it is. I don't think that's an issue for where he wants to go.
Is he a warm weather guy though? Just doesn't strike.
I
mean, he does.
think-
I guess he has that house in Florida.
I think he vacations warm weather. I think it is a matter of
He's got to have the pieces so he can win one more Super Bowl.
what place
Good
can he
luck.
go to that is
None of the
ready
teams that
to
are
win.
Well, Chargers.
The Chargers, if they're coached competently,
Derwin James is good.
their defense has a lot of really good
Defense is
pieces.
good. Khalil Mack had 2 sacks last
I
night
have
on
no
Lamar Jackson.
idea why their defense is so bad.
Like Chargers?
Yes.
Chargers defense is good.
It's been bad at times. It's
I know,
been
but
like brutally
they got-
bad at times.
They got
this year.
players.
That's what I mean, though. They have players to be good on defense, and they've been wildly inconsistent.
You know, we didn't talk about the NFC is the Lions.
Do you trust the Lions? The Lions.
Jared Goff made it to a Super Bowl before.
He did make it to a Super Bowl before. I don't know if I trust. Like, this might just be a mental hurdle thing
Yeah,
that
but
I
Thursday
can't get
it
over.
didn't look like he could do that.
I don't know if
Flip a coin, Dan Campbell out there. I never know what you're like. Seriously, it's like, okay, it's 4th and 3 from our 45. Let's flip a coin if we're gonna go for it.
YOLO, just see what happens.
Yeah, seriously.
You know, I really don't. I don't know if I trust. I don't know if I trust
I
them.
also don't know if like the receivers, stuff like that is kind of.
They feel like a really, really good regular season team that's going to lose in like the divisional round.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. Because they're not. I mean, they're not beating San Francisco.
I didn't
or
say
Philly.
that, Travis. I didn't say they're firing Dan Campbell. I said he's a flip a coin coach. Duh, they're not firing Dan Campbell.
No, this is the best season they've had in
Come
years.
on, Travis. I didn't say that.
Stop hearing what you want to hear
Yeah.
and hear what we're actually saying.
Oh, so they're firing Dan Campbell?
Yep, you nailed
No.
it. Let's do college basketball real quick. I got a minute here.
Okay.
You were down in Kansas City. In like 60 seconds, what the F happened against Colorado State?
Creighton, you mean?
Yeah. Nebraska's undefeated, giving them their
Nebraska's
flowers.
undefeated. In that
They're
game,
playing really good basketball.
Woo-wee.
Giving them their flowers, not ignoring Nebraska basketball. I
Game
know.
a week from that game in 6 days in Lincoln.
That's
That's going to be a woo.
In Lincoln is tough too. Like that's
It's going to be lit.
yes. So real quick,
Okay.
what on
Creighton
earth happened against CSU?
Shot horribly,
Awful.
and they could not get to the rim. And Isaiah Stevens from Colorado State is
Incredible.
NBA first round pick, probably point guard, and if not, he's going to play in the league he'll be on an NBA roster for a long time.
Yes.
So that is what happened.
Is it just okay? So to you,
It's a horrible shooting night. The ball got sticky a little bit. Baylor Shireman and Trey Alexander's not going to go 1 of 14 ever again.
probably not. I would imagine. What to you was it more just off shooting night for Creighton, or did Colorado State get him in some spots they didn't want to be
Colorado
in?
State's a little tough.
Little
They're tough,
Little gritty?
physically, a little gritty. And
Okay.
So is Nebraska.
All right. That
Yeah.
is your Warhorse Sportsbook Sports
Got to be able to
Cleanup.
get to the rim too.
You can go place your bets at the casino in Lincoln or at Horseman's Park in Omaha. Coming up next, we've got Barrett Sallee. He is covering college football for CBS Sports. We'll wrap up the show with him next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Becht drops, 3-man rush. Becht fires right, caught. This is Jalen Knoll. He'll have to make men miss. He scoots down the sideline, and there goes Jalen Knoll. It's going to be another long touchdown for Iowa State. 84 yards, Jalen Knoll.
Kicks this one off, and this one is going to be fielded at the 5-yard line by Robinson. Up center of field, 20, 25. Breaks through to the 40, the 50. He's got one man to beat. Outside to the 35. Broke a tackle. Say goodnight to it. Second half kickoff. Keelan Robinson, 95 yards.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. We're brought to you by our friends at Dingman's Collision Center, 4 great Omaha area locations. Family owned and operated for over 25 years and voted first place best of Omaha for 18 years running. They can work on all makes and models from Fords to Teslas because they have the latest technology. They also have a give back program, which gives back to the community with every car repaired. Go check out dingmans.com for more information. Joining us now is Barrett Sallee from CBS Sports. He covers college football. Barrett, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How are y'all?
We are doing well, coming off of a kind of wild rivalry week as the regular season wrapped up in college football. I know you gave out some grades over on CBSSports.com about how some of the prime contenders fared in this week? I know you gave out a handful of A+, but who were you most impressed with in their rivalry game amongst those contenders?
Well, I mean, I think when you look back, it's Oregon to me. Man, Oregon was insane. To go out there and do what they did, just basically shut down Oregon State from the moment toe met leather. That was phenomenal for me. Michigan, obviously the same thing with Ohio State. Controlled that game really good. I don't know about you guys, but I never really felt like Michigan was out of control of that game. You know, maybe Ohio State had a chance here or there occasionally, but it was more of a pie in the sky type chance than actually controlling the game. And then Texas with what they did to Texas Tech. I mean, they took it personally, obviously, with the Brett Yormark thing. I think for them to do what they did going into the Big 12 championship game, obviously is good in terms of momentum, but also good in terms of the committee. I don't know if the committee thought this, but I think there was some scuttlebutt that Texas wasn't playing that great, and Alabama might wipe the floor with them if they played right now. I think that narrative should have been flipped after what Texas did to Texas Tech, because that was emphatic.
Barrett, you mentioned Oregon, and I mean, I think they've looked like one of the best teams in the country for a little while now, but they do have that one loss. If they're able to beat Washington in the Pac-12 championship, and it's between them and an undefeated Florida State for that fourth spot without Jordan Travis, Oregon's got the better resume. How much does that 0 in the loss column matter for Florida State versus an Oregon team that's probably better at this point in the year?
The zero matters for sure. I don't think there's any doubt that Florida State, if they're able to beat Louisville, I don't care that Louisville lost. If they're able to win the last 2 games with a backup quarterback with all that pressure on his shoulders, Florida State's in with absolute. There's no doubt in my mind. But if Oregon beats Washington, Oregon's in too, because Washington would be knocked out. So I think both of those teams would be in. I don't think there'd be any doubt that a one-loss Oregon team. I'm with you. Oregon has looked like a top 4 team all year. Even against Washington, they look like.
Yeah.
I mean, Oregon's in regardless, and Florida State's also in regardless of Florida State.
Is that winner of the Washington-Oregon game in?
The loser?
Yeah. I mean, no matter what. What about the loser?
The losers out. Yeah. I mean, I guess I put this on. Well, no, I guess if there's a chaos scenario, I mean, I guess for Washington, if they lose, you could probably invent one.
Like if they lose,
Louisville
Florida
beats
State
FSU.
loses. Like how many teams have to
Iowa
lose
beats
for
Michigan,
Washington to get in?
Yeah, Iowa's not beating Michigan.
If Washington, let's figure this out. If Washington loses, Texas loses, Alabama loses, knock them out, right?
Okay.
Florida State loses, Iowa wins.
Then Washington
and Oregon might be it. Yeah,
maybe.
I just think it'd be awesome.
That'd have to be it.
Does a loss matter to Georgia at this point in like a normal scenario? They're in regardless.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think they should be in, but I don't think the committee would automatically put them in, because in that scenario, you would have, let's just say chalk holds elsewhere.
Sure. Yeah.
Michigan's obviously in. One Pac-12 team X, whatever, would be in. I think if Texas wins, Texas has a win over Alabama.
Yeah.
And that matters too. So you'd have that wild card thrown in, and then it would come down to Georgia,
Florida State
Oregon would be out. Yeah, Florida State. Florida State would be out in that. Well,
if Florida State wins, do they get in over one-loss Georgia?
It's a really good question.
See, this is what I like about this time of year, Barrett, because you have so many of these hypotheticals, right?
And we're not going to have it next year, unfortunately. But man, undefeated Florida State over one-loss Georgia.
Because I think everybody agrees Georgia's better, right? But at some point, the losses should matter.
The losses matter, and they always say, the committee always says they factor injuries in, but they never say how. Right?
Yeah.
Are they going to use it as if, Florida State's not that good without Jordan Travis, or could they use it as, wow, even without Jordan Travis, Florida State won their last 2 games in an ACC championship? It can go both ways.
And here's my other question. So in that scenario that we just played out, we left out a one-loss SEC champion from the playoff.
Yes.
That is
Alabama,
maybe the craziest scenario is that
But-
a one-loss SEC champion doesn't make the playoff. I think that would shock everybody, right?
The team that beat them.
Yeah, well, yeah, it would, and Greg Sankey would be furious. But I mean, there's a scenario where that could play out, and I think the biggest thing is the Texas-Alabama thing. Alabama's not jumping Texas. There's zero chance. I don't care what Alabama does to Georgia, because in that scenario, Texas would still have the better win because it would be over Alabama, which would be ranked higher than Georgia, because Alabama would have just beaten Georgia. So, yeah, it certainly could. I mean, it would take it would be hard. Basically, what you'd have to have in that situation is Texas. You'd have to have Texas losing, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like that's
or
winning, or if Georgia gets in with one loss, Texas would have to lose, because then the whole Alabama, Texas, Georgia connect the dots thing would be irrelevant.
Can you help me out with something real quick? Why is Conference USA adding Delaware? Like what benefit? What does that do? So New Mexico State or whatever and Delaware in the same conference. It's weird.
I guess it would be to get a bigger footprint, but they've already got kind of a footprint in there, with in the DMV area with Liberty and with Old Dominion. So I guess that would be it. When I saw that, and I've heard that behind the scenes for a couple of days, I can't figure out why. I honestly can't figure out why. I mean, I guess to strengthen their TV deal, because it is more of a major metropolitan area, but
it's still Delaware.
It's like Wayne's World.
Right.
Congrats, we're going to Delaware. I'm in Delaware.
Barrett, of the coaching hires that we've heard about so far, so Mike Elko, Jonathan Smith, Jeff Lebby at the Power 5 schools, which of those just gut reaction was the best hire?
Oh, Jonathan Smith at Michigan State.
Okay.
But that is A+. You can add pluses to that all you want. That is unbelievable for Michigan State to get Jonathan Smith. But on the flip side, I have no idea what Jonathan Smith is doing.
Yeah.
Like, no clue. I get it. You're going to a Power 5 or Power 4, I guess, whatever we're going to call it now moving forward.
Power conference.
A big one. But I know Oregon State has its issues, but you're going to Michigan State, which already was at least the fourth best team in its division. Now the divisions are going away, and you're adding 4 teams. Like, you have no shot. And I think if you stayed at Oregon State, A, he was going to get paid anyway because his contract wouldn't have changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then B, he would not only have been able to dominate the Pac-2, Mountain West, or whatever they do, right? They also could have been in a playoff spot because of that, right? Like, you could sit here if you're Jonathan Smith and have the easiest schedule of all time, go undefeated, and you might have actually been in the college football playoff. And even if you're not, you're going to be good. Everybody knows you're going to be good. He's a great coach, and Oregon State and Washington State, no matter where they go, whatever happens, are still going to be 2 of the best teams in whatever that is, right? And so Jonathan Smith would have been able to name his school next year and be an even bigger savior to Oregon State after being a legendary quarterback. He'd be ushering them through all of this. So great hire for Michigan State. I had no idea what Jonathan Smith was.
If Ohio State moves on from Ryan Day, which seems crazy, who says there's only like 3 coaches that would say no to that job, right?
Saban, Smart.
Right.
That's 2.
Yeah. Sarkisian.
Harbaugh.
Harbaugh. Sarkisian, Harbaugh.
Sarkisian, Harbaugh.
It's a pretty short list, though, right?
It's real small.
Are you surprised that Texas A&M didn't call Dabo? Because I am.
I'm glad that they didn't, just because I think that they have a more of a proper sense of self-awareness now. I think they hired Jimbo, and I hated the Jimbo hire from the get-go. I was one of the few. They hired Jimbo because they wanted to win the press conference. They wanted a flashy diamond throw around, and it doesn't work. And now hiring a builder, a guy who can get different parties to coalesce around a shared vision. That's what Elko was. That's what Stoops is. But I think that Stoops would have been better. But I'm pleasantly surprised that A&M didn't it didn't do what it always does, and that's been the problem there.
You're presently surprised that A&M didn't A&M.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Barrett, we appreciate your time as always. Hopefully we will catch up again soon.
All right, thanks, guys. See you.
That is Barrett Sallee from CBS Sports. That is our show for the day. Mike, thank you so much for joining me today. Andrew Rogers will be back tomorrow. I'm always here. Ravi, Lulla on Hurrdat Sports Radio.